Attention, please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric on the southern slopes of India. And our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas of Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for all our supplements because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
SIM-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free!
Buy now at labara.co.uk.
And hello and welcome to everyone joining us on the live stream. This is, of course, day 2 of the British Diving National Championships. Once again, the biggest event of the diving calendar in the UK. So we have the best divers competing from all over the country. We saw that yesterday with the first events that we had. Of course, this is a very, very, very important competition as it's a qualification event for the World Championships in Budapest, the European Championships in Rome, and of course the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. So there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure for these athletes, but the performances yesterday were really, really excellent. My name is Freddie Woodward. I'm an ex-competitor and athlete for Team GB in diving, and I'm being joined now by the older brother of my co-commentator yesterday, Ross Haslam. This is Jack Haslam. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back. Looking forward to the day, 3 metre, 10 metre, and some synchro events. So a little bit more going on than yesterday on the 1 meters, and then obviously we had a couple of synchro events, but should be good fun. Definitely,
definitely. We saw some of the guys warming up on the 3 metre springboards just now. We can see in the background, you can see Yona Knight Wisdom on the far side of the pool there. I think that might be James Heatley in his big, Edinburgh or Scotland. I don't know.
Yeah,
massive coat.
Big coat.
Yeah.
I think if you sat on the balcony like us, it feels really, really warm in here. But when you're diving and you're getting in and out that wet pool, you can get quite cold. So, good, sensible, keep his muscles warm, keep his flexibility for his dives.
Frighten the competition as well. You know.
Yeah. Maybe. I can't imagine James has that effect on many people, to be honest.
No, that's not the diving style, though, is it? Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to this. I think, obviously, probably be fair to say for me and you, this, being a bit biased, is probably our favourite event.
Oh,
Is that fair? Yeah.
Well, and why is that, Jack? This is where we competed,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Exactly. It's great to see. Although, judging on some of the diving yesterday, I don't think I'd be too happy about being in this competition.
No, see, I think I chose to retire at quite a good time.
Exactly.
Looking at what we have coming up, and of course the first diver being a very good demonstration of that, Daniel Goodfellow, for 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists.
Great start from Dan. I mean, 3.4 degree of difficulty to start off your list shows the degree of difficulty that he's got in his list overall. So, that's the dive that he's probably most comfortable with today, and he kicks off with it really, really well. So good start from Dan. I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with that.
Just so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, he never even really had to make a shape
No, that's a
to make the
strange thing
dive
about
spin faster
some
at
of the
all.
forward twisting dives now. A lot of the guys don't really make that tight pike shape because they do the triple twister as well, which you need a lot more time in the air. So
We'll see a few of
It's
those.
very interesting.
Jake Passmore in with 2.5 pike.
Ooh. That's sometimes the nerves in the morning, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
your adrenaline's pumping. That first dive you want to get it down, and unfortunately for Jake, because we know yesterday see how well he spins, and he's absolutely flying over there.
I mean, as I say, on a walking hurdle, a forward 3.5 somersaults piked for a guy of Jake's age that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
he's
a bit too
definitely
pumped.
one to watch, and obviously diving for Ireland as well. So he's hopefully got some meets to come up in the year.
Yona Knight Wisdom, forward 3.5 somersaults piked. Yona's signature dive, really,
absolute
isn't it?
banker dive for Yona, isn't it? I think I don't think I've ever seen him drop one in the competition of all the times that I've known him. Well, we started with him, didn't we, when we were growing up? And I don't think I've ever seen him drop one in definitely in the last probably 8 years or something like that. So
Yeah, it just looks great. It's so high, but it's so smooth.
yeah, he's got that amazing rip entry that everyone likes to see, and obviously with his long stature, it looks even better going through the water.
Well, that was a man that needed no introduction. Just straight back to business. Jack Law, of course, he had a fantastic day yesterday. 2 gold medals, very solid throughout, and that's I feel like
only the score of 4.59 on the 1 meter. It's that's a score that if I got that on 3 meter, I'd be absolutely buzzing. And he's gone and done it on 1 meter, so just shows how good a diver he is.
it's great to have him here competing and doing so well.
Kind of starting with a forward 2.5, which obviously a lot down on the degree of difficulty, but the execution there was really, really nice. It's sometimes hard to get the scores from the judges when you do the easier dives, which can be argued whether that's right or wrong, because at the end of the day he's executed that with not far off as well as he could do, really, and it's a great rip entry, great form, so great start from Connor.
I mean, one of the difficulties for the junior divers, me and Ross were talking about this yesterday, is if you don't go as high as the senior athletes or some of the others in a senior event, you get marked as a senior, just like so you'll always be a little bit down,
which I guess is fair in a lot of ways. You have to be marked kind of against these people because you compete against them.
Yeah,
so
of course. There's no divisions of age in here, of course. As a really nice start for James. It's his easiest dive, but you have to control it. You have to do it well. Some people struggle with that. James hasn't.
Well, again, like you said about Jack, he's another man that needs no introduction. He's in the last couple of years, it's just amazing to see what the level of diving that he's been doing now.
Yeah.
It really is top class.
Declan from Sheffield.
I believe this is his first senior nationals. Nice steady start there from Deck. Again, we've seen another forward 2.5 somersaults pike. So compared to, we've just seen James do the 3.0 degree of difficulty. That one was 2.4. We've seen 3.4. So we've got a nice range, which I think for us spectators is nice to see as well. You don't get to see the same dive over and over again. So that's always entertaining. We have the first of our Italians, Francesco Porco, with a nice inward 2.5 somersaults pike to kick off the competition. I think this was one that I like to start with when I did it in my list. It's a standing dive, so you don't have the nerves of the hurdle step. A lot of divers prefer finishing with a forward facing entry. To be honest, that probably wasn't quite my preference. I don't know about you. What would you say your preference was, forward or back entries?
Oh, overall,
forward.
Yeah,
I think back was actually probably mine, but in between pikes was definitely a nice start to start with.
Yeah, I was the same, and Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo
making the same
following
choice.
suit. One of our junior divers. I really like Hugo's diving. He's got great entry through the water. He looks strong, even though he's only a junior. He looks like, you know, a bit more work, and some of those bigger dives as well are not going to be too far off in the future. And at 17 years old, he's already competing these dives at the level he's competing them at. You know, it's really exciting for him.
Joe Stocking from Leeds. That was
Nice
a very,
dive again
a
from
very
Joe,
attractive
yep.
dive. An easier one, forward 2.5 somersaulted pike, as Jack said, that's a 2.4.
Rocking a different look as well. I've not seen Joe with short hair like that.
Maybe it helps his entries.
Yeah, streamlined. Yeah, people always ask me that actually.
Oh, yeah.
About shaving. Obviously in swimming, people shave the body hair to, you know, get the streamline. But in diving, it's not really a
No.
thing, is it?
I'm just naturally.
Oh, Jordan,
nice,
Holden.
Jordan.
What a beautiful dive. The time he has there. Honestly, he does the twist actually quite slowly there, I think. But because he's so high and he's set up, and one thing I like about that as well, as we spoke about earlier, is sometimes the divers don't make the pike shape, but Jordan's made a nice deep pike shape, then got out of it, made a nice straight shape, and great into the water as well. Yeah, really impressed with that first dive.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, we know the potential that Jordan has, and he actually showed a lot of that yesterday in the final, getting a silver medal on the 1 meter. So hopefully he's feeling confident today.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that Jordan struggled with a little bit, is just consistency. But hopefully, getting that confidence and familiarity with the event, then that always helps.
That was high for an in-between half pike.
Another junior that's just so impressive. I love watching Leon's diving. He just looks chilled out. Everything he does he makes it look easy because he's timing on the board. He looks relaxed. He doesn't rush anything, and it just, you know, it makes a massive difference in the dive. Nice dive from Oscar.
Nice, Oscar.
Yeah, the hurdle step scared me slightly. I thought he was a little bit over the end of the board there, but he stood it up really, really nicely in there, and he's got a great rip entry. Known as Aussie by a lot of the Sheffield divers, so if I accidentally call him that, then I apologise. But no,
his mum will probably like that.
Yeah, good to see him doing so well as well. I know when he was younger, he had a really bad break of his arm, which took him a long, long time to just be able to get his arm straight. So now he's going through the water with those rips. It's very impressive. Another good entry, very nice and neat and tidy.
Good start from Romano. We saw Romano and Oscar. We saw them in the 1 meter competition yesterday as well, and getting all the experience they can. And actually, same for Todd. He's doing a forward 2.5 somersaults in the pike position. And it's just a great opportunity for these young athletes to compete alongside some of the best divers in the world. And you know, we've got 19 competitors in this event. Nice full competition.
Nice again from Todd. Nice and high. Stood it up really high in the air, and then you give yourself loads of time to get that rip entry. The judges maybe just haven't gone with him there because he just left it slightly short of vertical. But personally, obviously, I thought, you know, it looked very relaxed, looked like a nice start, and I don't think he'd be too disappointed with that start. Yeah, I agree with what you were saying before, though. I think my first ever senior nationals was actually here in this pool, and I was still a very young junior. And coming into it, it's such a different atmosphere than when you're doing your junior events. And I did not dive well at all. And it took me quite a long time to get used to being in this event. And, you know, as early as they can do that, then the better for them. So it's great to see that.
I mean, obviously, there still needs to be a standard achieved. This is the most prestigious competition in the UK. So you have to be of a standard, but all of these young guys are.
Yeah, definitely.
And so then once you achieve that, getting that experience, I think, is crucial.
We just had Tyler doing the in-between half pipe, executed very nicely, and then followed up by Lorenzo with a forward 3.5 somersaults pipe. This one's a 3.1 degree of difficulty.
Yeah,
another one of the hurdle steps, isn't it?
He was probably happy that wasn't 4.5. He can do lots of very big dives, can Lorenzo, and his weight and his toes were just too far over the end of the board, so he couldn't swing his arms. So the push couldn't be as big as he would have liked.
Yeah, I think he'll be happy that he did that hurdle step on 3.5 rather than the 4.5.
Oh, yes. But he actually did a good job considering. And his teammate, synchro partner now, same dive.
Very experienced diver, Giovanni. He's been around for a number of years at these events and internationals all across the world. He's medalled at internationals. He's very well known. He's got very classy diving, which I think is one thing that he's known for.
Yeah.
Like that front 3.5 pike is almost the same as what we were saying about Yona earlier.
Yeah.
It's one of his banker's signature dives.
It was a hair short of vertical. That's the only thing sort of taking away from that, I think, really. Actually, it's a very, very nice dive.
Our last diver of the first round, Joseph. With the back 2.5 pipe. Very nice. What we were saying earlier about some people are more comfortable spinning forward, some people are more comfortable spinning backwards. Not sure if Joseph is more comfortable with the back entries, but that looked very consistent. Good rip entry. Maybe the judges haven't gone quite with it just because of the way it finished on the wall. It was slightly low down, but it was a great rip entry, nice, neat and tidy, and good start from Joseph.
For sure. Now round 2. Daniel Goodfellow, inward 3.5 somersaults with tuck. I challenge everyone to count the somersaults on this. If you can actually see each individual somersault, I'll be very impressed.
Especially when Dan does it.
Yeah, nice dive, Dan. No,
Beautiful.
he spins unbelievably quickly, but he controls
it.
it.
Quite slow for Dan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think he probably needs to slow things down.
So, especially when he makes stuff as easy as that, unlike the 4.5s and stuff. Obviously, back 3.5, you need to squeeze in and get all those somersaults in, because he doesn't go quite as high as the divers such as Jack and James. I think that'd probably be fair to say, even though him and Jack did do synchro there. That was one of the challenges that they had.
Yeah. And also Dan's somersault speed actually accelerating past Jack's often on some dives.
Jake following up his first round. His first round didn't go quite as he would have liked, but that one's hopefully put him a little bit more up the rankings. Unfortunately, there are, how many? We've got 5 guests in this event, and only 2 can go through to the final, so it gives them all a real challenge. And we've got 8 Brits through to the final, and then if 2 guests get in that top 8, they will go through to the final too.
That's tough, actually, isn't it? We're looking at Yona now, obviously one of the guests. I think Lorenzo and Giovanni were a bit disappointed that only 2 can go through, because they have to compete against this guy.
Yeah. Yona's so impressive, because I think when we were growing up as juniors, he, I think slightly unfairly, was kind of, a little bit written off by British diving, and he then chose to change his allegiance to Jamaica, which has seen him just go from strength to strength. He's obviously been at loads of events around the world, and the thing that I find really impressive about him is he just continues improving and improving all the time. Like you saw yesterday, he's upped his degree of difficulty on 1 meter.
Yeah.
Some of the diving he's doing on 3 meter, the quality of it just keeps changing, and it's great.
And I think now it's starting to pay off for him.
Yeah.
All of that grind, that work.
And this is one of the dives that I've seen him improve on.
Yes.
Jack doesn't need any improving on it, because he can do that. He's been able to do this dive amazingly for years.
Since he was 15.
Yeah, I mean, he makes it
Jack.
so easily. That I can't explain how easy he makes that. When I used to do that dive, it was I wasn't feeling good. It was not an enjoyable day. It used to be landing on my back, on my shoulders.
Black eyes.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, Stampy, but actually right there.
Well done from Connor there. I think sometimes when you hear that noise, I don't know if the noise can come through on the stream, but the noise on the end of the board sometimes can throw you off, because you don't quite ride the board as much as you would like, to throw you all the way up into the air, and then that leaves you a little bit more work to do. But Connor's adapted really, really well and got a great entry through the water.
And that is actually something for springboard diving that's really difficult. These aren't trampolines. It's just a big plank of metal.
Yeah. You have to make it. These guys make it look easy to time it, but I can confirm it's not. I remember when I was younger, my dad used to say to me, like, you can do all these somersaults in the air, but sometimes you struggle to walk to the end of the board. And I used to say, I wish it was that easy, Dad. I really do. Nice dive, James, in with 3.5 somersaults tuck. His standing inward facing dive.
Yeah, and it's a lot of dive there to do from a standing takeoff. And this is actually a dive that James has really improved on. You know, initially, I remember that being quite similar to me, you know, struggling, not always having the time on it. And he's gotten stronger, his technique's improved, he's just getting better and better and better. And now it's a comfortable dive for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he was putting it quite early on his list as well, because it's not one of his highest degree of difficulty dives, but it's one that he's quite comfortable with as well. So good dive from him. Deck with the same dive, but with one less somersault, but executed very nicely.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that Declan does really well, is the execution.
Yeah,
he's a very tall diver, and so it's kind of a bit like Yona. If you finish a dive well and you have good entries, having that height, that can actually work in your favour in terms of the elegance of a dive.
Absolutely. Francesco with a 3.5 somersaults pike. A very nice dive from him. A couple of 8s on the board from the judges there as well. So that's always a nice score to get in the prelims. I think if you're getting 8s from the judges in the prelims, sometimes they can be a bit harsher in the mornings than they are in the finals. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't think many people will disagree with that, saying it's a bit of a questionable thing to do. But I think the crowd always makes an impact as well on obviously it's a subjective sport. So
yeah. But I agree, Jack. It's good to see, you know, the nice dives being rewarded this morning. It helps everyone.
Hugo snuck that in nicely. Another hurdle step we're seeing, just a little bit off the end of the board, which just gave him a little bit more work to do. But he managed to squeeze really tight in that pike shape. His pike shapes are great. He's got his chest flat on his legs. Gets all that somersault in and then lands upright. Hugo was the boys 3 meter Group A champion at the Junior Elites earlier on this year as well. Nice dive, Joe.
Yeah, nicely worked around. Good entry. The leg line is beautiful. I think Joe will eventually be looking to try and increase that somersault speed just to make that dive even easier, even more casual, and actually when you get that will give you access to some of the high scores as well. But he's done a great job there. Bang on. Jordan Holden in with 3.5 somersaults tucked.
This is what we were saying in the first round, wasn't it, with Jordan? I think it's no stranger to everyone that he spins so fast, he jumps so high, he makes these dives with ease. Just the challenge he has is just coming out of him in the right place. And we saw his first dive. When he does it, he has such a wow factor because of the height he gets, and his rip entry's improved as well over the years. I think something maybe 5 years ago now, quite a while ago, it wouldn't be one of the top things on his qualities, but now he's got a great rip entry as well. So it's a bit of a shame that he's just left that slightly short, but it's not going to put him out of the running at all, especially after that first dive. So
yeah, and when you have lots of big degree of difficulty to come, you can make up that room more easily if you really nail it. Yeah, but that can add some pressure. It was a good, nice 3.5 somersaults from Leon, and to Ozzy now for 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist.
And a nice dive.
Yeah. Good.
Nice and high. It was nice and calm on the board. I think sometimes when you come into these events and you're not quite familiar with it, you can get a little bit nervous on the hurdles, maybe put them a bit further away from the end because you don't want to go over the end.
Or stamp them.
Yeah, and after his first hurdle as well, which was a little bit over the end, sometimes then you kind of change it a little bit too much, but did really well on that hurdle step and put it on upright on his head as well, so good dive. Romano with a forward 3.5 somersaults in the tuck position this time.
Yeah, great dive. Very accurate.
Yeah, we'll see the scores from the judges there, around average of 6 marks. Oh, not quite come through. Yeah, average of 6 there from the judges, I think. Good scores, very steady slightly forward, which is maybe why the judges just penalised him a little bit, but I thought it was a great rip entry, nice, neat and tidy, good dive.
Same dive now from Todd.
Another nice dive.
Yeah.
Difference with Todd, there's a little bit of a pike out, which you can see some divers, if you're a little bit lower finishing, go for the punch out, which you go straight from the tuck to the straight line for your entry, whereas Todd has come out in through a pike shape and then lined up his entry. So it just gives the judges a little bit more of a, you know, makes it look a little bit easier almost because you've got a little bit more time.
Tyler, same dive but now within the pike position.
It's a good dive from Tyler. I think he did this a couple of times in January as well. His hurdle steps just on the corner of the board, which means he's just drifted sideways a little bit. So sometimes for the judges, you might not be able to pick that up because obviously you're side on with him, but we're on a little bit of an angle here, so we can kind of see it. But again, good dive. Known for his class and his elegance, his great rip entry, his good toe point.
And Lorenzo getting a better hurdle step there and cruising the forward 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists. It just faded slightly, maybe on the takeoff and therefore on the entry. You just found it hard to stop that dive, so there was a little bit of over rotation. But nice and comfortable. Same dive now for Giovanni.
Very nice from Giovanni.
Great
dive. Rip entry. These two following each other, first 2 dives exactly the same as well, and obviously they're in a bit of a battle there to get through to the final as well, seeing as there's only 2 guests. So it's probably an interesting one for Giovanni. He gets to watch his pal go and then gets to copy the dive and see if he can better him.
Yeah, and they're looking at their list of dives. The only difference really is at the end. The last 2 dives have just swapped order, but otherwise everything's the same.
I think does Giovanni do reverse 2.5?
Yeah, and Lorenzo
does do a 3.5, but
he does.
Obviously I think it's one of the dives that he finds a little bit harder, so he's probably opted for the 2.5 for the prelim, trying to get through to that final, and then maybe we'll see the reverse 3.5 later on. I'm not too sure. Joseph finishing off that round with a forward 2.5 somersaults pike, again executed very nicely.
Of course, that does mean now it is round 3. Daniel Goodfellow reverse 3.5 somersaults tuck. I mean, he's back on the spring. If I landed back on the springboard on that dive, that's a nightmare.
It's trouble.
It's just not for Dan. And actually, he was bang on. His kick was great. He didn't really panic. He just didn't reach back enough.
See his face there. He looks a little bit annoyed with himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quality that Dan's got. I mean, he's scored over 500 in this event before, which is a huge score, and there's only a select number of divers that have ever done that.
Yeah.
So
Like world medal score.
Yeah, to be within those scores ever in your life really shows what kind of quality he possesses. Jake with the reverse 2.5 somersaults pike, so taking off a somersault compared to Dan.
Yeah, I think Jake's forward and inward somersaults, particularly pike, looked really fast. I think that one looked maybe a bit careful. You want to see a bit more attack on that, and he's just ended up a bit short of vertical.
He's had a little bit of a shaky start this morning compared to what we're used to seeing from him. So I know it's so easy to get inside your own head when you're in a competition. You've only got one chance to do these dives, and any little thing that goes wrong, it's hard to get over that.
Oh, well, you're holding on to that so well for such a big guy. I mean, a beautiful dive. And I thought it was going to be a little bit over, but he held his body line so well. The pike save through the water, the roll that the athletes do on the forward entry dive, just working so good to just hold it, and the entry was excellent.
Yeah, that's the easiest dive in Jona's list, and you can see how he just cruises around. He's got about 3.5 meters when he's finished the dive, and then he has to hold that entry, which he does so well, like you said. Jack with his easiest degree of difficulty dive of the competition. The inward 3.5 somersaults tuck. Again, nicely executed from Jack. Maybe just slightly lost his feet on the end, which is why the judges haven't gone any higher, but just makes it look so easy.
It's right there.
It's hard to say that, hard to watch a Jack do a dive without just saying, wow, so easy. It really is.
Yeah, sorry if we sound repetitive, but we're still in awe.
So Connor's list's a little bit lower down the degree of difficulty compared to some of the other divers, but so far, been very consistent.
He's there or thereabouts on everything. He showed that yesterday on the 1 meter springboard, but he was also in the synchro competition. He was pretty much bang on most of his dives, and that's one of the hardest things about diving is actually in competition, making sure that the dives are there, good enough.
Sometimes, I think Ross mentioned yesterday, if you're doing the lower degree of difficulty dives, it almost puts a bit more pressure on them because someone with the high degree of difficulty list can afford to drop one of their dives and then they can make the points back on another one. But if you're doing these ones, then you have to make sure you nail every one of them. Oh, nice dive, James. Stood up so nicely, was so steep, great balance. Comes out, lines up, and barely any splash on the water. 87.5 points on a 3.5 DD dive.
So easy to just line that dive up.
I love that dive. Especially when it's done well, it just looks so elegant.
It does. It does. I think that dive is a fan favorite as well. If I show videos of diving, and I show that dive,
I think
people
that's
are like,
why
I like this one.
Yeah, a few years ago they changed the DD options from, they upped that one and changed the reverse 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twist. So, and that's the reason why. Deck there, you can hear the crowd like that one.
Yes, go on, Deck.
Great kick out, great rip entry. We said this on the last dive. He's got a great rip through the water. His long line, he manages to hold his body shape the whole way through the water, and he goes through with barely any splash.
I just want to point out as well that Ross is Declan's coach. So we can see Ross on poolside.
Yeah, I've taken over from him today. Got some big shoes to fill from yesterday's commentary. I enjoyed listening. Francesco opened his DD a little bit with the forward 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists.
And the same dive for Hugo now. Yeah, I know that's something to mention about Yona. You're saying that the forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist is his easiest dive. In the final, obviously assuming that Yona goes through, he'll be upping his degree of difficulty. He'll be taking that dive out just a little bit.
From 3.0 to a forward 4.5 with 3.8, I would guess.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing that, and a good dive from Hugo.
Yeah, that's our British Elite Junior National Champion on the Group A in this event. Again, 3.4 degree of difficulty at that age is a big dive. So, although some of the old dives we've seen it's now the sport's progressed and they're using the 4.5s and the same dive but with 3 twists as well. So it's still a massive dive to be doing at 17 years old.
Joe, reverse 2.5 somersaults piked.
Again, nice and neat and tidy from Joe. Accurate and upright on the entry.
Yeah, maybe he was a tiny bit early in the kick, but I liked the kick. He then had to just reach it back pretty hard, and he actually got it. He was bang upright, but when you reach back that hard, sometimes when you're trying to pull your legs around, you can't always get the entry you necessarily after. But actually, overall, that was a really nice looking dive.
The impressive thing is when you do come out and he realised as soon as he came out, I need to adjust, and he did do that adjustment, and that's why he's got the scores to match.
Nice, Jordan, or just about, yeah. It was an early kick, but he held on to it. And that actually, in some ways, that's a statement of, I can kick that short, and I'm all right.
Yeah.
Because I think we both looked at each other. There was a tiny bit of panic in us both, but actually, you forget it's Jordan. He's got so much time.
I saw him do 2 of those in training. One of them was a little bit shorter than that, and the next one was probably 8.5. So that just shows classic Jordan. Leon with different variation of the reverse twisting dive.
Yep.
This one, as we just said before, is the 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. It's a lot of dive to fit in that. You have to be really brave to stand it up tall.
Yeah. I mean, and it was a very good attempt. I think really for Leon then he just needed to neaten it up.
Yeah.
Just
a little bit more toe form, squeeze his feet together.
A bit more squeeze even on through the arms on the water, and that's, you know, it's great. It's great effort. Ah.
Oscar with a really, really nice dive. Stood up nice, tall, good balance, good kick, and then what we were saying about Joe earlier, he reached his arms back behind his ears and got it round to upright. Oscar's just left his arms slightly in front of his ears, so that's why you can see the splash just kick up off his shoulders. But overall, I think the dive itself, nothing really to criticise. Just needed to squeeze those arms back behind his ears a little bit more in the entry.
And that just shows why it's difficult. He did absolutely everything right, and the kick, as you said, Jack, was right, but he just didn't. He just needed to reach back, say 2 more inches, and that dive's perfect.
Yeah. The fine margins. Romano with the same dive. Similar on the entries, not quite as high finishing as Oscar.
Yeah, he needed maybe a little bit more space, a bit more speed perhaps, just to carry that round a bit more.
Yeah, sometimes when you are a little low finishing, you just have to kick those feet up to the roof and then hold them tight and squeeze those arms back to get that entry. Ooh, 3 in a row. Acting off somersaults tucked and Todd again. This is just a 2.8 degree of difficulty. A lot of divers doing this in pike position with an extra 0.2, but Todd...
That's the finish.
That was a beautiful entry.
That's the finish. Yeah, excellent. Really, 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 really nice on the end. I think, for example, Oscar's probably looked a bit neater.
Yeah.
But he's had that splash. Todd, yeah, the rip that was excellent.
We love a rip entry.
Oh, yes.
Those hurdle steps just causing Tyler
not the takeoff Tyler would have wanted. And he's had to flick. I think he feels that he's not got the somersault speed that he wants, so he flicks into his twist quite late, which means then not much time to fit the twist in. But Tyler twists really quickly, but then by the time he's finished the twist, he's coming round. There's just not enough room left to finish the dive.
One thing that's interesting about Tyler is he tends to twist with his arms across his chest, which I think, obviously, it's quite when they're spinning so fast, it's quite hard to see. But certain divers you will see the twist with their arm behind the head, one arm behind the head, and one arm on the chest. But Tyler actually twists with 2 arms on his chest, which is interesting. I've never tried it personally.
No, me neither.
It's an interesting technique, and it obviously works when he's doing the 3.5 twisting dive in the reverse direction. So.
Yeah, that was a good solid dive from Lorenzo. But yeah, I agree, Jack. And actually, this is something we were talking about down in Plymouth at the Futures Cup a couple of weeks ago. I actually think some of the best twisters, some of the fastest twisters, if you think about Tyler, Kyle, Katari, even Robbie Lee, I think they all twist incredibly fast, and they twist with their arms, both arms in their chest. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're squeezed in really tight, you're not making too much change in your body, really. So it's I don't know if it's just a coincidence as well that they're all fast twitch. You know, Kyle's ridiculously fast spinning as well as twisting. Yeah,
everything about Kyle's fast. Isn't it? Same about Robbie.
Yeah. So that was Giovanni with the back 2.5 somersaults pike. Same as his compatriot.
Joe with a reverse 2.5 somersaults pike.
Not quite got all that dive in there. Again, with the reverse 2.5 somersaults pike, it's really important to try and wait for that board and let it ping you up in the air as high as you can. And then when you get in your shape, you can spin around, have a look for the water, and kick your feet out. Unfortunately, he's just gone slightly short for him there.
So this is the biggest dive that we will see in this morning's competition. There'll be a few people doing it. Dan is the first, 2.5 somersaults, 3 twists.
Oh, Oh, wow. Wow.
What?
Dan,
Oh,
good fellow.
Dan. I mean, okay, we say we prefer when people make a shape first. Dan doesn't particularly, but it's not a rushed takeoff.
No.
He still waits for the board. He still rides it up. Some of the people who don't make a shape, I have some of the Russians in mind, or the Mexicans. The chest goes down so quickly, but actually, I feel like Dan still made that look smooth.
Absolutely. I mean,
And a beautiful, I mean, incredible.
The hard
actually.
thing about it is because you have to get into that twist so early, it is hard to make the shape originally anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
as long as he gets his legs close enough to his chest, then you know he's got the B from the dive number, and then if he can do it to that quality, then.
Oh no, that was great. I mean, it was so square. He had time. Excellent. Yeah, I think that's Jake's. Probably maybe his preferred dive as well, the forward 3 and somersaults piked.
Yeah,
Still
63
overgunning it
points
a
there.
little bit. Good job, but he's just so quick in his shape.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little bit happy with that. He's obviously had a little bit of a shaky start for him. We know how good a diver he is.
This is a tough dive for Yona. Oh,
nicely
yes!
done. I think like you were saying about James earlier on in this competition, this is a dive that Yona found quite difficult a few years ago, and he's just progressed on it. You know, now he's coming out through that pike shape, giving himself a little bit more time, and he's definitely more consistent over it now.
Yeah, that was great. That pike out, the finish was right there. Nice job, Yona. Especially in a preliminary round. Yona said to me earlier that he's feeling like his legs are a bit heavy this morning. Like, and then he remembered that he'd had a really heavy week in the gym. You would have thought you'd planned for that, wouldn't you? We've got the national championship.
Jack with the back 3.5
sneaky,
somersaults
good.
tuck. So this is a 3.6 DD, but I think Jack would probably say he finds it the hardest dive in his list. Obviously, he's got the 3.8 and the 3.9 in there as well.
Yeah. But I think most people who do that dive, bar maybe someone like Dan, would, but I don't know, would say that actually it's the most difficult. And that's just sometimes, I think the degree of difficulty system works really, really well. It's been created really well, but there are just sometimes a couple of dives that don't quite match.
Yeah, I think with Jack, obviously, it's a dive that he's had a little bit of trouble on over the last couple of years at the big events, but it looks to me, no, obviously I don't train with him every day now, but it looks to me that he's overcome that. He looks a lot more confident with it.
Yeah.
And,
He
I know
changed his
something he
dive
spoke
order.
about over the Olympics, that he found it really hard to, overcome the world championships error that he made, but it was one of his almost proudest achievements because of that. So it's great to see that he's looking back to his best.
Yep, definitely. And I think Jack sort of realizing that confidence is that's what it's really comes down to. That's such a big part of it.
James with a reverse 3.5 somersaults with tuck, so he's same dive as we just spoke about with Jack, except different direction. You get 0.1 less DD on this dive. James just left it slightly short of vertical there.
Yeah, I mean, it won't have been the hurdle step that he would have liked. He was back off the springboard, and that's still a lot of dive to do from there. But I don't think he panicked on the takeoff. He still waited for the board, so it was great to see that. Maybe he just could have kicked through higher.
Yeah.
But to see him look composed on that with not the ideal takeoff, that's actually really, really nice to see.
Speaking of composed on the start, I really like Deck rode the board really nicely there, went up in the air.
Yeah, he does that really well, Deck.
Just maybe the reason he's just rolled slightly over from vertical is on the start, he didn't quite get his arms all the way up to his ears for his throw, which means when you throw, you kind of throw with your head down a little bit, then it's hard to maintain your spots when you're spinning around. By spotting, I mean when you're doing your somersaults in the dive, you tend to see certain things. You'll look for the water or look for the board, and then you know when to come out of the dive.
Nice dive from
keeping
Francesco.
himself
Yeah.
in the run-in for the guests.
Yeah, he's actually been pretty steady overall as Francesco. going to put in some pressure on his teammates. Yeah, to be clear about the spotting, you say seeing the water or the board, it's kind of abstract flashes at best, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a combination. You can kind of feel when your hips and your head are rotating. So that's one way that people will know when to come out. And then obviously if you can do that as well as spotting as well, then you're going to be more accurate. So I know that some of the best divers, such as Tom, his spatial awareness is incredible.
Aye.
Oh, that sounded like a big hit.
Yeah. You've probably all seen that, but he's whacked his hands on the springboard, has Hugo. I mean, he was miles up in the air. It was a bit too close to the board, but also when you come out with long hands, like long arms like that, you're at risk of that.
I think, like you said, because he was so high, he almost tried to stop the rotation.
Yeah.
By coming out with his arms
Exactly.
straight. And unfortunately, because he's just a little bit maybe too steep.
Yeah.
His hands. I mean, hopefully he's okay. He looks okay, but
yeah, I mean, a very, very,
that
brave
like
of him.
A big hit.
He got straight out the water.
He's got ice on his hands now, so let's hope that he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We want to see him competing.
We do. Yeah, Joe Stocking.
Well.
Forward 3 somersaults pike. Yeah,
Sometimes
that was a little
hard
bit
to
short.
Follow up. Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, please.
It's sometimes hard to follow up when that happens because it's obviously such a you're aware of what's going on. You can clearly hear what's just happened, and then it might change your focus a little bit. So for Joe, it's a challenge that it is a hard one. There we go from Jordan, 3.9.
Yeah, that's it again. That's the hardest dive we're seeing in this event. And again, for a preliminary round, it's by no means Jordan's easy dive. It's good. It was square. It was almost there. I think you put that in a final. I think so.
Yeah,
it's not a miss.
Especially in this prelim. Just to get through it, no drop, consistent, 6.5, 6.5, 5.5 to count from the judges. I think I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yep.
Leon with the back 2.5 somersaults pike. 3.0 DD. Looked pretty nice. I kind of couldn't tell on the entry there because we flipped to the underwater camera. You couldn't quite tell how the water stayed down there, but the dive itself looked nice. Kicked up nice, strong dish shape, but then
I wonder if the
maybe just tucked his head in a little bit on the end, which is why the judges have penalised it a little bit, but we couldn't quite tell on our screen that we missed the entry. Very similar to his back to
same kind of mistake, unfortunately, for Oscar. Just needing to just line his arms back further behind his ears to just take the water down. The rest of the dive's nice.
Yeah, definitely. Again, like spins really nicely in a tuck shape. His come-outs are very nice. I think sometimes when you're doing an event that you're not familiar with, maybe he's just a little bit cautious, so he doesn't want to reach those arms back and pull it over from vertical. But that's why he's just left it a little bit a hair short of vertical, and unfortunately he's not going to get the marks that he would do, because I know how well he can rip those dives as well. Romano correcting his error from the last dive. He kicked his feet up in the air.
Yeah.
His back 2.5, just let his feet kick a little bit short and then left it on his back slightly, but that one kicked his feet up in the air and this time slightly over-rotated, but
maybe just needed that knee save.
Yeah, good correction on the kick though. These three divers following each other again with the back 2.5 in the last round and the reverse 2.5 in this round.
Oh yeah, that's a bit of class, isn't it? That's a bit of class.
What a great rip entry.
Nice. Great to see a junior in this event getting 8.
Yeah.
And
deservedly so.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Judge 3 didn't like it as much as I don't know why.
Well, you just got called out, Judge 3.
No, that's the reason why we have our top 2 and bottom 2 scores taken off, because obviously there's always going to be anomalies. Real shame from Tyler. Yesterday's back 1.5 on the 1 meter was absolutely beautiful, which is lead up for this dive. So you would expect it to be similar. Unfortunately, he just left it. Kicked his feet out a little bit too early.
Yeah. You know, and I know that some of these guys are, like Tyler, they're teammates of Hugo, so you know. Oh, almost there.
Yeah, sneaking in really. He's not dropped it. It's not going to give him big scores, but it's not also going to leave him away from his guest pack. I think there's a real hot competition there. It's almost like some of them have to compete like it's a final just to get into the final, because there's that few spaces.
And it is harder in the morning.
Oh,
it just is. You're not at your most powerful. And also these competitions are slower, and I think typically most divers prefer to dive in smaller competitions where you can dive pretty fast. So you're almost doing just one dive after another. And this isn't too long by any means, but it's still, still 19
not a World
competitors.
Championships, 50
yeah.
divers.
Oh, yeah.
It's still, like you said, it's not a final where you're running, you go, you get your coaching point, you go get yourself ready, and then you dive. You've got a bit of time to prepare. It means you've got a bit of time to think about stuff more, which can be negative, can have a negative effect. Giovanni in that last dive, by the way, just opting with the reverse 2.5 instead of the 3.5 like Lorenzo. Looks to have paid off with him with a very steady dive, good rip entry through the water. And finishing off our 4th round is Joseph with a forward 3.5 somersaults pike.
And that was Joe's most difficult dive of his list of dives. Running out of room a bit, it was a bit rolled through the end, just catching his shoulders rather than getting all his arms extended.
Yeah, he jumps nice and high. I think he just needed to squeeze that shape a little bit tighter just to increase the spin speed, but again, not a drop really. I think he relatively upright and not too much splash thrown up. So
this is where you see.
Not too disappointed with that.
Yeah, hopefully this is where we see the somersault speed come into play. Yeah, Dan. So, and to be accurate when you spin that fast is amazing.
And he was a little bit off the end of the board there as well.
But that's just the thing with Dan. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He can do his dives from anywhere.
He's got the strength and the composure to think, I don't need to panic here. I can stand it up tall and I can make my shape and I'll still make it all the way around. Funny how his 3.9 and his 3.8 have been his best dives so far as well.
It's quite handy that though, isn't it? In terms of points accumulation.
Yeah, he obviously won this event earlier on in the year. So, although there's stiff competition with the likes of Jack, James, he'll be hoping to do similar. That's a bit more like it from Jay.
Yeah, much better aerial work.
Yeah, really nice kick out,
really
confident, good dish shape, and then reaches back for entry. Sometimes when you have had a bit of a shaky event, the judges can kind of be a little bit harsh on the dives that you do better, I've found in my experience. So maybe that's why he's been slightly only the 5.5, 6s there from the judges, but I think he'll be a bit happy with that one.
Now, Yona put this dive down for 90 points a couple of weeks ago.
It's a great rip entry. The thing that he did last in the Futures Cup was, which I've not seen him do as much, was his balance was really good. He was steep up in the air, and then that just gives him a little bit, that extra half a somersault rotation almost to get in. Whereas that one's slightly forward, but again, he's still done a great job with the kick and finish.
And that is the thing. If he's forward, the legs drop. He did a great job, and it's still an excellent dive. But to get that final bit of carry of his legs to get 90 points, just the direction.
Jack with the forward 4.5 somersaults tuck, 3.8 again. He said you'd hopefully be getting a bit more familiar with the DDs if you aren't already.
I think just reaching for the water a bit too early.
Yeah, I think we were saying earlier with with Jack's forward entries in the past, it's probably been the weaker of the two between his back and forward. But obviously over the years, his consistency has been so mega that you barely see that. But they're just not lined up quite as well as you'd like. Oh,
Woo,
Connor
yes.
with a beautiful reverse 2.5 somersaults.
These Southampton Diving Academy divers, juniors, pulling out the reverse 2.5s on. Woof, very good.
Yeah, we've got some great coaches down there, obviously with Lindsay and Zinda.
Yeah, and they've rebuilt the program from the bottom up. Obviously, I was talking to Lindsay about this yesterday. That Southampton used to be the place to be. Obviously, when Peter Waterfield was in his heyday, and our coach Tom Owens, he was down there with lots of other divers.
Chris Mears, of course.
Chris Mears, yeah, he was sort of probably the last big name from Southampton until a lot of these younger divers have now been brought through. It's really impressive, and it's great to see the club flourishing now.
Absolutely.
Let's go, James.
Did he have a little knee buckle there? I'm not. His legs didn't look like they
possibly.
just when he hit the bottom of the board, it didn't look like he just sprang out the board as he usually does. I'm not sure whether I'm looking into that a little bit too much, but it's really impressive how he's brought this dive into his list, and it's actually been so consistent.
Oh, it's been so good.
And this is such a big dive to get in. A lot of people bring it in, and like you see with Yona, he's not opted to do it in the prelim, and he's hopefully going to do it in the final if he makes it. But James has just been so consistent with it. Deck with his biggest dive of the list.
Yeah, well worked round Deck. Good job. Deck's had to flick quite late on that twist to make sure he gets the dive round, but he still held the entry. He's got a good finish.
Yeah, his hurdle step was a little bit back off the board, wasn't it? So he just gave himself a little bit more work to do, but he adapted well. Got it all the way around to upright. Francesco with a reverse 3.5 somersaults tuck.
Oh, I actually liked the takeoff.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he made a nice tuck shape.
Yeah.
Just when it's so simple, like we said, there's that many variables in this sport. You need to land on the end of the board to start with the maximum power if you can. Then you need to reach up into the sky. Then you need to make your shape, and then you need to come out in the right place. And that's just to make it sound very simple. So.
Ooh, but good lad, Hugo. You could get a little glimpse of his
you can see
hands there, but
very brave.
Yeah, top guy.
It'd be very easy to just say, you know what, I've
throw the towel in.
Yeah, I'll finish this competition.
Oh, absolute credit to you, mate. Go on. Yeah, I mean, also that's really hard because we've seen Hugo in the side of the pool. He's been sat with ice on his hands. You know, he's not. That makes it hard to warm up for the dive. It's hard psychologically, but he's still going. And I think every single person here and at home give him a lot of respect for the fact that he's just pushing on and not letting it get to him.
You can see almost there with that dive. That's one that you need to be really brave with the balance.
Yeah, tough dive.
He's just pushed it forward a little bit, and it's really, really hard to fit it all in from there.
He's probably wishing that he would have had a different dive
yeah.
for his first dive after whacking his hands.
A standing one, preferably. I think.
Yeah.
So with the back 2.5 somersaults pike there, just left it slightly short of vertical, so not getting those scores from the judges that he might have liked. I actually quite like the aerial work. His pike shape was very nice. He's got a good leg line.
Yeah, on each of Joe's dives. So the notoriously, arguably most difficult dive in terms of actually doing it. Whoa!
Oh, Jordan!
Go on, Jord. Whoa, good man. Well, that's his.
He snuck that in so
He
well.
did, didn't he? That was clever.
He stood it up. He jumped so off a standing takeoff. You can see, obviously, from the camera angle there, we've got quite a good view that he gets over the 5 metre off a standing takeoff, which that's over 2 metres jump, and then obviously he's put his feet up and drilled the entry as we were speaking about earlier. His rip entry's really improved over the last few years.
Wow, great dive, Jordan. He's still in it. He's keeping focused. Oh, big dive for Leon as well.
Oh. thought he was going to nail that.
I know, I know.
He did nail this down in Plymouth, though, in the
he
Futures
did.
Cup, didn't he?
I mean, again, the takeoff from Leon. I think you talked about him being composed. He just waits for the board, and then just fires his knees up into his chest just at the right time. So he's high and then he's fast. He's got loads of time.
He's got some. He's just got a bit of a swagger about him, Leon. I really like it. He just looks chilled. He knows how to compete.
That's a good
better
dive.
entry from Oscar.
Yeah.
The last two dives have been really, really nice in the air. Just missed those rip entries through the water. On that one, he's got that rip entry really nicely. So he's got the sixes there from the judges.
So Romano for 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist.
Just that again, you can hear that stamp on the board. It just makes it really difficult for you to get all the height out of the board. Unfortunately, just left it a little bit short of vertical.
Just noticing that Romano using the Chinese, well, we call it Speedo, but I guess swimming trunk of or costume of choice, the Ying Fa. But obviously Lin from Crystal Palace being his coach.
I really like those trunks as well.
Yeah,
good material.
Yeah.
So the last three divers followed each other, the same dive in the last 2 rounds. This time they've all switched it up. We've seen a forward 3.5, a forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist, and now an inward 2.5 somersaults.
Yeah, pretty much all of Todd's finishes is ripped through the water. They've just been like so nice.
Yeah, he's
bang
drilled
on
every entry, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think for Todd it's getting that bit more toe point, and then the sky's the limit for the scores. Wow! Yes, Tyler.
That's a
that was high.
Yeah. You can see him just kick out, float round.
Beautiful.
7.5s to count. I would have liked to see a little bit more, to be honest. I thought it was beautiful.
I totally agree.
Well, I'm not going to tell the judges how to do their jobs.
Absolutely. And it is worth saying that it's really great having all of these judges here. They do a fantastic job. It's hard to judge diving. You have to be so focused, and we're very grateful for all the judges for
Absolutely.
the work they do.
Lorenzo with it in with 3.5 somersaults tuck.
You're running out of a bit of space. I mean, the progression of Lorenzo, just got to seeing, particularly through competition and social media, how he's progressed. I do remember Lorenzo from junior events, and he was good then, but he's taken his list to a new level. He's doing a lot of the hardest dives, and actually, the somersault speed that he can produce is really impressive. He's not producing that same speed that I've seen on some of his dives in the past today.
I think it's, I don't think you'd mind people saying that Giovanni here was probably, as a junior diver, at a bit of a higher level than him, but he's really, really stepped up since he's turned to a senior diver. Yeah. Fortunately there for Giovanni, he's just had a restart, which means we're going to have a 2-point deduction from each judge on their score.
Yeah, tough moment for him. This is a forward 4.5 somersault, so it's a lot of dive, and him just feeling like he needed that restart. Let's go. Nice.
Oh,
yeah, well done. Well done.
It's very hard. I've restarted in a competition before, and the adrenaline you get when you've done that, and then all I could think about when I did it was, please don't do it again. And when he's got such a big dive like a forward 4.5, you have to have that perfect hurdle, otherwise it's going to be a real struggle to get all the dive in. And he's done really well there, Giovanni.
Really well. A lot of composure. Very impressed.
Joseph finishing off our penultimate round with a 4 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist in the pike position. Very nice executed. Great rip through the water again from Joseph. And he has got a good rip entry. I think as a spectator, the entries are one of the main things that you can focus on. If someone goes through the water with barely splash, it always gives you that little bit of a wow factor.
So the final round. Daniel Goodfellow, diver 1, back 3.5 somersaults in the tuck position. So just to point out now, the scores for the World Championships to put yourself in contention. Well, I'll mention that in a second. We'll just talk about Dan's dive. Maybe a bit skipped off the board, we would say. Not the full extension. I mean, incredibly fast, and I think he still had enough room, but maybe not the height that we can see from him on that dive. Just wanting a bit more space on the end. But yes, so the scores, they're looking to achieve 405 or over in the preliminary round, and in the final 420 or over. I think we'll see a lot of the guys achieving that score.
Definitely the 420 in the final, I would have thought. I think
Yeah.
most of them. Well, I know all of their PBs are significantly over that.
Oh, significantly, yeah.
Obviously, the consistency of getting those the scores is a challenge.
But obviously, yeah, the final is where it really comes down to, and it's, I guess, mostly it's probably just about getting those 1-2 places, particularly winning.
Yeah, Jake finishing off there with a full out, double out. Sorry, that's the 4 2.5 somersaults with 2 twists, and that's probably his best dive of the competition. He had a bit of a shaky start, but then he's recovered really, really well in the back end of the comp.
Oh, I love Jonas hurdle. I love it.
It's so smooth, isn't it?
I mean, he's gone a bit past vertical on that one, on the entry. And I mean, he'll be a little bit annoyed, but it's not a big miss. It's just also he has high expectations of himself, particularly on that dive with the start. That's good. And again, it's just
he's been working on as well with his feet. I think.
Yeah, that's the big thing for Jonas.
He's been he can do the full out now without the foot flutter.
The foot flutter.
I think he can do the double out now without it, but obviously he's still sort a little bit there. Jack with an extra twist.
Oh yes.
Just
nice.
So easy. So 405 was the prelim score that these guys needed. Jack's just got the 462, so absolutely cruised over it.
No, I think that from Jack is a very good prelim performance. It's not max out, because actually in some ways you don't want to be. If you do your absolute best in a prelim, I think actually for a lot of people it's quite a challenging position to be in psychologically. Like I've got no more to give. Where do I go from here? Not necessarily, but it can be.
I've been in that position, definitely. I prefer to have a steady prelim, and then you've got more to give in the final. That was my standpoint. But Connor there finishing off his event with a 4 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist. Very steady diving from Connor all day. I've enjoyed watching him. Good rip entries, very neat and tidy. Good, promising young diver.
So it's a big dive for James to finish off on. And yet, by no means James's best event we've seen, but he's still sitting on 336 off of 5 dives, the big dive to finish. If this goes in, there's no reason why he can't get the preliminary score of 405.
Yes, 70 points needed. He's definitely going to get that.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie.
Same. But again, when he stamps the board, when he mistimes the board, he just pushes through it.
Yeah, he's got
well
that
done,
strength.
James. He has. Again, to be clear about that stamping, because it is just a big plank of metal, the board typically bounces each time you jump on it. The board tends to bounce. It's hinged at the back, and then it's on a fulcrum sort of towards the back end. It bounces on that fulcrum a couple of times. But if you're landing on the board when, say, the board is coming up, or not the perfect position for you to land on it, there's going to be a stamping sound. But James just pushes through that.
Yeah.
And does one of the hardest dives in the world.
Real strength to be able to do that.
Oh, great. Well done, Declan.
Yeah, I'm very
excellent
impressed
way
with
to
Dex
finish.
today. His consistency's been there throughout the whole event.
Yep.
Obviously, Ross,
some
my brother,
class to his diving. Yeah.
his coach, he's always been a very consistent diver, so hopefully he's giving a little bit of that knowledge to Deck, and looks to have paid off, because Deck's diving today, obviously the DD of his dives aren't up with some of the big guys, but that's obviously expected to not be. But his diving's been so consistent, he's ripped pretty much every dive he's done, which is great to watch.
Yep. Well done. Well done, Deck. Head held high for sure after this one. First senior nationals.
Oh, Francesco is just... After the first 4 rounds, I thought he was really in the running for the top 2 guest spots, but the last 2 rounds, unfortunately, I've just seen him drop down the standings, so we're unlikely to see him in the final later on this afternoon.
Yeah, that's it. It's a hard dive. And Hugo's last dive. Get a steadier one now, back to an off-somersaults piked.
Yeah, Hugo's got a big year, I think, in the junior scene. Obviously doing the individual and the synchro as well.
Great finish.
Dive to finish.
Well done, Hugo. That's a good way to finish his event.
Yeah, it takes some bottle to come back from having a bit of a disaster in the 4th round. Yeah. Hopefully his hands are all right.
Yeah, hopefully. It's a good sign that he has been diving. Obviously, if there was a major fracture or something, you can't imagine that he'd be still going. And he was looked at by the the medical team that we have here, so taking care of him.
Yeah, well done, Hugo. And Joe there with a full out to finish. Very nice dive again, another good rip. Just liked a little bit of height, which is why we're probably only seeing the 6s and 6.5s. I think if we get a little bit more height out the board, then the judges will reward him even more. But very nice dive to finish, good rip entry, good form. Well done, Joe.
Big moment for Jordan. His last dive forward 4 on somersaults tuck. This could go massive. Nice, good.
That's going to get in the prelim score.
Yeah. Well done, Jordan. He's kept himself in contention, and he's showed what he can be really capable of. And there's a bit more left on most of his dives. And
yeah, the good thing to see is that Jordan at the nationals in the last couple of years, or the last couple of events, should I say, has had a bit of a nightmare in the prelims and not managed to get through to the final on a couple of occasions. So it's good to see him. You know, he's getting more comfortable in this environment. He's showing off what he can do, because we all know what he can do, and he really is a great diver. Leon finishing off his list with a forward 2.5 somersaults 2 twists.
He's definitely getting ready to add that extra twist, isn't he, Leon? Early flick.
17 years old doing this dive with that ease really is impressive. I can't imagine it's going to be too long before he's competing some of the biggest dives in the world. Well, I suppose he already is.
I mean, some of them, yeah.
First 2.5 double outs in most people's lists. Oscar finishing up with the in-between somersaults pike, equal to his highest degree of difficulty of the list as well. I think this is a relatively new dive for him as well, so this will be the first time he's competed that.
Yeah,
potentially.
It can be a tough dive, that, particularly when you're learning it, the in-between half pike. Obviously, we were saying in the beginning we liked it. When you get comfortable with it, it's great, but obviously your legs are spinning past the board in a pike position.
Yep.
That can be quite daunting. You've got to make sure the technique's right.
Yeah, there's not been many divers that have done that dive and never hit their feet on the board once.
Yeah. And a simple dive for Romano to finish on, but done very nicely indeed.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching that. Nice relax on the board, stood it up nice and tall, good balance, and then a good entry as well through the water. So well done, Romano. Right then, Todd, can we have another rip entry, please?
Yeah.
Shows what you got. Spoiled from you today. course we can.
Yeah.
Great dive, Todd.
He urged you, Jack. Like, yeah, sure. He gave us a wink from the springboard. No, great dive. And he's done really, really well. See why he was junior elite champion, I believe. Tyler, reverse 1.5 somersaults, 3.5 twists. You get to see Tyler's twisting prowess again. He has just lost his legs on the end. It's just hard. That's the problem with the dive. It looks great, but it's so hard to control being in a straight position and twisting for that long.
The trouble with the dive is because you're only doing 1.5 somersaults and you're doing 3.5 twists, you have to make sure you don't pull your chest too much on the start and give yourself too much rotation, because then, as you've just seen with Tyler, it's really, really hard to get out of the dive square and land upright. I think that was one of the challenges I found with that dive, was making it slow enough to not over-rotate. Lorenzo with the forward 4.5 there, just making it interesting there for the guests.
Definitely. That was obviously just really quite short to vertical. He was moving okay. No, I think the biggest problem there was just an early come out. Again, when you're doing 4.5 somersaults, having the accuracy to come out in the right place is one of the biggest challenges of that dive. And it's also just so difficult. So yeah, it's not been the best morning for Lorenzo.
Yeah, so Giovanni needs to overtake Francesco, I believe, to make it through to the final. So he only needs just over 19 points, which we would expect him to get on this dive.
Oh,
Nice,
good.
nice dive.
Yep. Yep. He did what he needed to do there.
Yeah, nice entry there. We spoke earlier about the difference between coming out from your tuck shape through a pike shape or punching out straight to the straight line. Giovanni's opted to punch out that dive, but with a great entry as well, so obviously paid off.
Yeah, it certainly did. So it's looking like we will see Yona and Giovanni in the final as our two guests. Again, just clarifying, despite where they end up, we only have 2 guests in the final, and the top 8 British divers will go through.
And finishing up our event today is Joseph with that in 2.5 somersaults pike, and again executed very nicely. Joseph today been very consistent really with his entries. I think sometimes the judges have not gone with the higher marks just because of how he's finished the dive. He's finished the dive a little bit lower on the water than some of the other competitors. But again, good, consistent diving from Joseph.
Yeah, that's a wrap for the men's event. That was our first preliminary competition of the morning. Just full of big names, big divers.
Yeah, I think we're going to get the results as well, so we'll be able to see standings from the prelim.
Yeah, so once that's been confirmed, we'll get that on the screens for you. Obviously, there's a bit of a clue as to which competition we have next right now. I wonder if you guys can figure that out. We have, of course, the women's 10-meter platform competition. So they were warming up this morning as well, of course, and we just have a small break now, just for the women to do the last final preparations for their preliminary competition. A lot of the people choosing to do what we call either lead-ups or entries. I think a lot of them are entries. So you see, just these are all drills that the women do to just practice their entries into the water, because that's something particularly on a platform competition that's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the challenge actually for some of these girls is obviously they've trained before the men's event. They've done their dives, and then they have to sit and wait for the men's event, and then they have to get back in, and you know, like you said, it's figuring out what you want to do, whether you want to maybe do your first dive. Sometimes that's the case, maybe just do some lead-ups or just some entries just to get your body wet and ready to go again. But it is quite, I always found the wait after your train quite hard, because you know, all you're doing is you're obviously nervous, you're trying to keep your body ready and awake, but you don't want to, you want to be smart and know when to relax and when to get yourself ready, and so you're not tired for the final later on almost. So yeah, like you say, there's most of them look like they're just doing some entries first, and then we'll see some diving later. But Yeah, enjoyed that boys' event. Some great diving. Lorenzo there just trying to correct his fall.
Yeah, the coach isn't happy.
Yeah. But no, it's
Get
great
back
to
in.
see. I think like.
It is. It's good attitude.
And then obviously we've just seen Jack with a good score, 462.6, taking the top spot in the prelim, which in the past I think Jack's Nationals has not been Jack's favourite event. He's not tended to compete as well at Nationals as we've seen him do throughout the world events and the big major events. But I think part of that is because he was so far in front of a lot of the other 3-metre divers. He didn't really need to. So the way that he was trying to do his peak performance was not to peak at the Nationals, was to peak further on in the year.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think, because he's got the challenge of people coming up and they're not far behind him, the scraping, and if he's not on it, then one of them is gonna take over.
Yeah. And quite often we do see people beating Jack, particularly in a prelim when sometimes the scores can be low, but we can actually see James in the distance. He's back up on the 3-metre springboard. He's exactly one of the people that you're referring to, Jack. The list of dives that James has, the standard of which that James is able to do all of those dives, it's so high. It's really, really impressive. And I know it's been I think a little bit of a difficult transition for Jack, but ultimately one that's I think really good for him and actually really good for all of the competitors. James for so long has watched Jack, and you see the diving that he's able to do. You see the dive that he's able to do, and I think that will inspire you really. And I think for someone like James, it really has. He's been able to push on, and he's achieving that level now. And so, honestly, I'm incredibly excited for what's going to come later today.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I mean, we will see the scores coming up soon, I believe, but we mentioned the qualifying scores earlier, and we've got a number of divers over that now. I think it's 4:05 to qualify, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 divers over that in the morning. Obviously, later on the final score is 420 as well, so hopefully we'll see plenty of divers over that score as well. Interesting to note as well that we haven't had Anthony Harding competing today.
Yes, so we saw him yesterday in a boot. He's got shin splints, so he's just resting. He was only focusing on synchro. I think probably that's the biggest focus for him now, being in that synchro team with Jack Law. But yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal diver. So yeah, we did miss him this morning, but he's just trying to do everything to make sure that he's in his best place to compete, certainly for synchro.
Judging on the synchro yesterday as well, it looks like the training, I mean, obviously I see stuff on Instagram and online, and it looks really, really good. The diving both suits each other really, really well, and I know Anthony's forward spinning dives are generally really consistent. It's back and reverse that he finds a little bit more shaky. So in the synchro events, without having to compete those dives, it's perfect for him. And,
yeah,
I'm really excited.
He said that yesterday as well.
Yeah, I'm genuinely excited to see what him and Jack have got to offer in world events, because I think it could quite easily be some more Olympic and world medals in the future. So I don't think we're going to be able
we're
to
not going to get the
results on the screen.
Not up on the screen. We've just heard them from inside the building, so we'll give you a quick rundown.
So as we've said previously,
the final
in
order.
first place from the prelim was Jack Law from Leeds Diving. 462.6 was his score. Second overall in the competition was Yona Knight Wisdom, representing Jamaica, of course, score of 439.1. Second in the British event was Dan Goodfellow, again with a 435 score. In fourth place we have Jordan Holden representing, missed one out. In third place we have James Heatley from Edinburgh Diving with a score of 418. Fourth place, Jordan Holden from City of Sheffield Diving with a score of 407. Our second guest for the final is Giovanni Tocci, representing Italy with a score of 387. Then our fifth place in the British event is Leon Baker from Southampton with a score of 333.95. Down to eighth place in the event is Francesco Porco from Italy with a score of 3 at 3.4. Sixth place in the event through to our final is Todd from Southend Diving with a score of 3:30.85. 10th in the event, Lorenzo from Italy with a score of 3:26.55. 7th in the event, also through to our final, Declan Rogan from City of Sheffield Diving, 3:08.55. And our last finalist is Joe Stocking from City of Leeds with a score of 3:03.35. So that means, unfortunately, just missing out on the final, we have Tyler Humphreys in 9th place from Dive London Academy with 3:02.85. 14th place overall in the event, Jake Passmore, representing Ireland, of course, but also City of Leeds Diving Club with a score of 3:02.55. 10th, Hugo Thomas from Dive London with a score of 296.75. 11th, Oscar Wilcox from City of Sheffield Diving Club with a score of 282.4. Conor Leno in 12th from Southend, a score of 280.65. In 13th place is Joseph Nicol from City of Leeds Diving with a score of 278.15. And finally, Romano Wang from Crystal Palace in 14th place with a score of 262.05.
So yeah, thank you, Jack. That is a quick wrap of all the scores that we saw this morning. As I say, we're going to take a very small break now, and right after that, we will come back with the women's 10-meter preliminary competition. So don't go anywhere. Please join us for that, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Attention, please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric on the southern slopes of India, and our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas of Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for all our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
Sim-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free!
Buy now at labara.co.uk.
Attention, please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric on the southern slopes of India, and our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas of Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for all our supplements because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
SIM-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free.
Buy now at labara.co.uk.
Well, hello, everyone tuning in on the live stream. Excuse me there. Too much talking today. Well, thanks for joining us again on the live stream. As I said, this is just the second half of the first session of competitions and the second day of the British Diving National Championships 2022. We are here at Ponds Forge International Sports Centre. We just saw the men's 3-metre preliminary round, and we are about to witness the women's 10-metre platform preliminary competition. I can actually see some of the athletes beginning to make their way up the towers.
Yeah, we've got 17 divers in this event, which is actually quite nice, really. It's quite normally one of the least competed events, I think, the women's platform. So 17 divers means there's going to be a real challenge to get into those final spots. We've only got one guest. So obviously, to be a guest finalist, you have to come in the top 8. In the other events, we've seen that only 2 guests can get in anyway, so that won't be a problem in this event. But 17 divers, we've got some big dives coming up on the 10-metre.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to point out, Jack, is the strength in numbers in British diving, actually across all boards. Now, this sometimes can be a slightly emptier event. It's really difficult. 10 meters is really difficult. It's very physical. It's very demanding on the body. So to have 17 competitors, you know, obviously we have one guest in there as well. It's awesome to see, and the level that all of these women are at, it's really promising. We can see Gemma MacArthur up there on the 10 meters. She's ready, representing Edinburgh Diving Club. She's going to start her competition with a back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists.
Yeah, all the dives will be off 10 metre today. So in the nationals previously in the year, some of the dives you might have seen on the 5 and the 7.5, but the rules for this nationals are every dive has to be on the 10 metre. Very nice start from Gemma.
Yeah, great start from Gemma. She impressed me a couple of weeks ago. She's obviously looking for the Commonwealth Games. She'll be representing Scotland there, and actually she's really improved, and certainly that dive is a very strong dive for her, and that's a very nice way to begin this competition.
Absolutely, and following up Katie with the same dive. This is her first senior nationals as well, so it's a really big event to come into. Obviously not much experience, it's a big challenge, so I'm excited to see how she gets on. She's been looking really good in training.
Yeah.
Good start, Katie, well done.
Well done. Yeah, not looking too nervous, too shaky on the dive. Excellent start.
No, not at all. So this dive is a 3.2 degree of difficulty. It was previously a 3.4 degree of difficulty. When I was younger as a junior, I used to compete at 3.4, and it was a lovely dive to get at that DD. So it's dropped down a little bit, which is probably a little bit frustrating for some of the girls. But
yeah.
It's still a big DD dive, especially in this event.
Grace Alley, reverse dive pike.
Good dive from Grace, who's one of our junior champions in the Futures Cup.
Yes, she was. She was very consistent, and I mean that's one of the points kind of connected to what you were saying at the beginning about having to use the 10 meter. Obviously, Grace is a junior. In those events, you don't have to. You can use the 5 meter, you can use the 7.5 meter, but to compete at senior nationals, it has to be on the 10 meter. We saw her getting the coaching comment from her dad,
Yeah, that's
diving
great to
legend
see.
Tony Ali. He's a full-time coach now at Sheffield.
Yeah, very good coach as well. I know we've had him in the past. He's very focused, works you hard, but
Oh, he sure does.
definitely pays off. Good
Oh,
dive from Lucy. Love that takeoff.
takeoff was excellent.
Absolutely love the
The
takeoff.
rotation, the somersault speed, the aerial stuff was really nice.
She's 5 meters in the air.
Yeah,
and she's basically
so
finished the
comfortable.
dive.
Sometimes that dive looks a bit stuck, a bit
Yeah,
slow.
because because your feet come round the board. It's easy to just jump back,
Yeah.
make sure you're safe, and your feet aren't going to hit the board. But then it means you're a bit low on the entry. Whereas Lucy there, she stood up really well. She actually has got a really good ankle pop. She uses her feet to move on the platform, as you will see in this competition, and she gets a great jump out the board. So nice start from Lucy. Next up is Lois.
Yeah, a big name, double Olympian. Lois Tolson, forward 3 and off somersaults piked.
Good dive from Lois again. One of, like you said, a big name. One of the more experienced divers now. She's still only very young.
Yeah, it's funny to think
seems to
of
have
that.
been around these events and international events for years, and we saw yesterday her now kind of mentoring Maisie Bond in the synchro event, which is really exciting because, like we said, Maisie's a exciting prospect for the future too. So it's good to see that, you know, the moving on in the roles.
Yeah, I thought Lois maybe looked a little bit careful on that takeoff.
Yeah,
I mean,
she's known for making these dives so easily, and maybe sometimes, you know, the first dive in the prelim, just try and be steady and get it on your head, and maybe she's just overdone that slightly.
I mean, Hannah's a really classy diver, actually. She can do some really excellent stuff. Obviously, that's a required dive that we're seeing there. That's not one of her optional dives, but again, her list of dives have to be entirely on the 10-meter board. So as you're developing your list of dives, if you want to be into the senior competition, you obviously just have to make sure that everything's up there, and maybe you end up using a required just to allow you to compete in this event.
I actually quite like watching the requireds as well when they're done nicely like that, because you just
same.
get the rip entries, and it's great to watch.
And Hannah's dive was beautiful. And that was a nice dive from Maya, just missing the entry, missing her hands. Something there not exactly going to plan through her, I don't know, her elbows, her shoulder extension, the alignment perhaps.
Yeah,
but the rest of the dive
really
was
nice
good.
in the air. Great pike shape. Really enjoyed that pike shape. Leg line and toe point was really good in the air. Like you said, just maybe put her hands a little bit too far forward in front of her face. Just missed that rip entry through the water, which is why we only seen those scores. But again, nice dive in the air, steady on the start, and get her into the competition. Hopefully relax those nerves a little bit. Same dive from Chloe. Number 2.5 somersaults pike. That's the rip entry.
Yeah, she's got the hands.
Yeah, very nice dive from Chloe. Obviously representing City of Leeds diving. See 6.5, 7.5s and 7s from the judges there. 3 7s, 7, 7 and 7.5, sorry to count. So yeah, all the girls will have to do one dive in 5 directions. Obviously on the platform we have an extra direction than we do on the springboard with the arm stand dive. So they get a little bit more choice. They can miss out one of the directions, which is quite a nice thing for, say, you know, if you don't like a reverse or a back dive or something like that, you get a little bit more choice. So good for the girls.
Whoa, Eden. There we go.
One thing about Eden is she's always had a great rip entry. Just hasn't always been consistent at doing it in competition. I think every time I've seen her do this dive recently, it's had that entry, which is really good to see her consistency.
So good.
Just kind of stepping up and moving on.
Yeah, classy dive.
And I'd love to see that entry on the back 3.5 as well. That,
imagine.
We know she can do.
Emily Martin, I know she's still struggling with an injury that she was carrying a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
wow, what a dive. I mean, that's why it's good to see the required dives, because they just look so pretty, and that was perfectly executed. Well done.
Yeah, I don't think there was
Emily.
much wrong with that, in my opinion. Great jump, nice bike shape, press that into a dish, and then absolutely disappears through the water. So great dive. Again, it's good practice for her synchro as well, because You know, in synchro you have to do the 2 required dives. So doing it under the pressure of a competition is really good practice.
And I think that's exactly what she's doing today, looking at a dive list, first 2 dive, a back dive and a reverse dive. And as I said, with carrying an injury to her abdominal muscles, it certainly makes spinning back and reverse quite difficult because you use your abs so much to pull your legs up into the shape in the beginning. Tia McGarry in with 2.5 somersaults piked.
Very nice dive. I think the camera might have just missed the entry there, which is a real shame because it was a great dive.
Yeah, it was a good entry. And excellent jump out the ankle.
Yeah, again, like I said about Lucy, the Sheffield divers must have been doing a bit of practice on that, because both of them get some great spring out of the board. Obviously, the platform, you've not got the help you do on the springboard, you've got to do it all yourself, and both using their ankles really well.
So Robin looked great yesterday. And again, arguably unconventional, but starting on her arm stand dive. But this is a very solid dive for Robin.
Yeah, interesting for Robin as well. She's doing the back 2.5 somersaults pike as well. She's previously done reverse 2.5 for a number of years, but she's had a little bit of trouble with that, and she's changed up to a back 2.5 somersaults pike, so we'll have to see how that one goes. Good start though.
Yeah, good start from Robin.
You can see why she starts on that dive.
Yeah, and if you are that comfortable in an arm stand, why not? She is. The aerial work looks great. I think the whole body alignment was probably a little bit off, just to try and get a better entry.
I know how good she is. Obviously, she's an ex-gymnast as well. Her handstands are incredible. I remember having handstand competition with her a few years ago, and it wasn't enjoyable.
She's just watching you.
my shoulders were twitching because she was staying up so long.
Unlucky. Actually, the takeoff was there, just the come out was too early.
Yeah, again, the pike shape was good. There's a lot of good things in that dive. When you're spinning around 3.5 times, you've got, like we spoke about earlier, there's the awareness. You spin around, you can either view your spots when you spin around, or you can feel when your hips and head rotate. Unfortunately for her there, she's just missed out on the entry a little bit, come out a little bit too early of the dive. But the good thing is she's come out that early and still managed to get all the dive in. So clearly she's doing the right stuff on the takeoff and in the shape to make sure she can still make that dive. Another very nice back dive.
Yeah, so we're seeing a few of those, a few reverse dives as well. Obviously just to complete the full list of dives for everyone, but really nicely done. And again, it's good practice for the synchro event. And you have her synchro partner Libby diving now, doing a reverse dive. We saw these two compete yesterday in the women's 10 meter synchro event. And I think they did a performance I think that they can both be proud of.
Impressed with some of the entries, to be fair, from the girls. I think sometimes on the 10 meter, the boys have great rip entries, and the girls sometimes don't quite have the same consistency throughout the board. Where today, so far, I think pretty much every dive has shown a good rip at some point. So, yeah, it's good to see.
It is, and Andrea, who we're about to watch now, she's a great example of having the potential of a really great finish, a really good rip.
Yeah, we saw
her dives
go to the Olympic Games in Tokyo.
Yeah, what achievement for her, very young, still 17.
Again, I like the dive in the air. The shape's very nice.
Yeah.
It was just a little bit, maybe her feet came up in front of her on the start, so the spin speed wasn't quite what we're used to seeing from her. So
yeah, that works against you, doesn't it? You want everything to
absolutely.
come up behind you so their hips accelerate. Yeah, a little on the slow side, maybe a bit early on the come out as well. It's a bit of a shame because she's an Olympic athlete. The level of Andrea's diving is exceptional.
So Maisie Bond, already mentioned the exciting prospect she is. I've obviously trained with her for quite a few years. She's And amazingly exciting. I mean, her rip entries, like you just see there, are just great to watch. And even though she's now developing and growing up, sometimes it's really hard, especially as a female, when your body's changing, to make sure you can keep ripping. But the good thing that we're seeing is Maisie's, you know, she's turning into a woman and she's still got those entries, which is really, really good to see.
Yeah, no, but I mean that is one of the biggest challenges, and that makes it particularly hard to be a junior athlete. I've noticed that as you don't compete anymore, so you're kind of in and out of the diving world, and you see people just change completely, and they still have to be doing the same dives or new dives.
To the second round for Gemma with a forward 3.5 somersaults pike. Again, similar to some of the other divers, we've just seen a little bit early on the come out, so we've not got quite the rip entry she would hope for.
And probably not the takeoff that she would have ideally wanted
I know
either.
she has been struggling with the back injury, so running up to a platform, I don't know if it's one of the later ones that she's brought back into a training routine, but running up onto the end of the platform and jumping as high as you can really put some force through your back. So not quite sure. I might not be talking sense there, but Katie, rest 2.5 somersaults tuck.
Almost, perhaps a little bit high on the kick out. She has over-rotated a bit, but it was a confident dive.
Yeah, she did hold on to that well, I thought. I think, like you said, she kicked a little bit high, but she made sure she didn't reach back too quick. She took her time and held on to the entry so she didn't go flying over. So good work from Katie.
Yeah, by no means a big miss.
Her teammate, Grace Ali. Yeah, what we were saying about the bodies changing as well. I think you see a lot with the Chinese athletes. Like some of the girls will come and win the 10 meter at 15 years old, and then you don't see them again once they the cycle just goes to the next young girl.
Oh, this dive was so good a couple of weeks ago. One of the reasons why she won the junior event.
One thing I like about Grace's diving is everything is quite precise.
Yes.
Like she makes good shapes, she comes out with confidence, she makes good dishes. Unfortunately, she just kicked out a little bit early on that one, which has meant just landed short of vertical. Our third of the Sheffield divers, formerly of Southampton, Lucy Hawkins.
This is a back 2.5 somersaults piked.
Ooh.
Well done, Lucy.
Nice, Lucy.
Accurate.
Good rip entry through the water there as well. Made a really nice sound.
No, I think she'll be really pleased. I mean, that's exactly what you need to do. I think 8 of the divers for the British event will go through to the final, as we know. And so to make that happen, Jack, I guess for Lucy, if she keeps diving like that, you'd expect to see her in the final, wouldn't you?
Yeah, early on this year, she was very consistent. I don't think she dropped a dive in the prelim. I think she, if I remember rightly, she might have done 4 out of the 5 in the final. And that consistency in diving is huge. Nice, Lois. This is I think Lois's consistency on this dive has really improved as well. She used to be very consistent on the forward and inward. I always used to think inward 3.5 was a bit of a banker, back twist was a bit of a banker, and this one was the one that was a bit more shaky. But in recent years, I think it tends to be there or thereabouts most of the time, so it's good to see.
And even when she makes the dive as easily as she does, that can sometimes make that even more difficult to control, to be accurate.
Yeah, there's not many people that do that with an extra somersault in the world, but I think she could if she wanted to.
Yeah. Hannah.
Following up her first round dive of the forward 1/2, increasing the DD to a 2.8 in the inward 2.5 somersaults pike, and still keeping the execution marks up.
Perhaps a little bit early on the come out. I think the takeoff was fine, and there's a lot of class to Hannah's diving, but to give herself the best chance, I wonder if she just to get the best finish possible. Maybe just holding onto the shape a bit longer, so it gives her a bit more space to fully extend through the water.
Another early come out.
Yeah,
There's
it
a lot
was.
of goals. That had the speed to get that early come out. I
Yeah.
think it was about the right time. The interesting thing on the run up was I thought she was a little bit off the end of the board, which maybe meant she had to throw the dive out into the water a little bit more, so her feet don't come close on the rotation. So obviously when you're running to the end of the board, you want to make sure your feet land as close to the end of the board as possible. If you are a little bit back like that, that means you just have to jump a little bit further forward and you don't get the same height as you might do if you were on the end.
Chloe Johnson back 2.5 somersaults with a half twist.
Nice, so we've seen this dive with an extra twist previously in the competition. Chloe opts in with just the half twist, so the degree of difficulty drops down to a 2.6. So a little bit lower there, but nice steady dive from Chloe. Neat and tidy again. I feel like I've said that quite a lot already in this competition. The girls are all showing a bit of class in their leg line, the toe points and the pike shapes, which is always good to see.
Eden is certainly one of those. That's her forward 3.5 somersaults in the pike position now. Oh yeah, really
I
great.
really like that.
Me too.
From the start all the way through the dive, I liked it. The pike shape in the air, the spin speed from the takeoff, and then obviously the obvious one on the entry. Really good. She looks in good form.
Yeah, definitely. But it's been a tough time for Eden. You can see she's got considerable strapping on both of her ankles. I know she's been seeing consultants about issues with both of those. So I mean, that's the issue with elite sport, isn't it?
Especially on the 10-meter guys, you can see the strapping on Emily's shoulder or tricep.
Triceps, yeah. Yeah, another great required dive for Emily. That's just exactly what she needs to do on those. There's not much that you can take away from it, and that's a real skill, or a real attribute of Emily's diving. Her finishes, her consistency. Tia McGarry. And this is Tia's most difficult dive, certainly in terms of degree of difficulty. 3.2, back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists.
Yeah, it's one that she's been working on for a couple of years now, and I think she's opted to do it with the half twist and in certain competitions, and then the 1.5 twist in other competitions. So it's good to see her using the harder option. Give her a little bit more chance to get higher scores with the DD. And
she was fighting,
yeah,
wasn't she?
Yeah, she's got all the way around. It was a little bit scrappy on the way round. I think it's good to see that she's now making that dive well enough to compete it.
Yeah.
And just a little bit more, neatening off the edges, keeping those feet together. We'll get the bigger scores. That's why it's sometimes such a hard decision to go with a lower DD that she can do really, really well, or to have that extra risk. But it's good to compete that dive, get a bit of familiarity with doing it in a competition with the extra pressure, with the extra bit of adrenaline. Hopefully next time she does it, then have an improvement.
This is the dive you were highlighting earlier, Jack. Robin's newest dive, back 2.5 somersaults piked. Yeah, well done.
Nice. Very nice. Great rip entry.
Yeah, great hand. Well done, Robin. That's it. It's confidence.
Yeah, it was careful.
It was careful,
it was accurate.
but she found her hand in the Futures Cup. As I say, a couple of weeks ago, she was just not quite getting the entry on that dive. So she's been away. She's worked for a couple of weeks, and that's great execution. Well done, Robin. Whoa!
Well
Juliet.
Juliet. Great recovery. That first round dive, I saw her after. She looked a little bit upset.
Yeah.
But she's such a young diver coming into this
No.
event. Not everything's going to go right. No one is expecting everything to go right when you're such a inexperienced
well,
diver at this
course.
type of event. And to come in and do an in with 3.5 of that standard is really impressive.
It is. I mean, she can't have been doing these dives long.
I wouldn't have thought so.
And it's that's something about Crystal Palace as well. You often find they create some very young, very gifted athletes.
Nice dive there from Ellen. So we've seen some forward dives already with the running takeoff. Ellen there is opting for the standing takeoff, obviously with the 14.5 somersaults. A little bit extra somersault, a little bit less somersault needed, sorry, so she doesn't need that extra run up to get that extra bit of height. So she's opted with the standing takeoff, and I think we'll see that from anyone else that does the 14.5 somersaults pike as well.
Once again, her teammate now doing a forward 3.5 somersaults in the tuck position, using the running takeoff.
Accurate on the end.
Yeah.
Came out in the bang right place.
I think I would have liked to have seen a bit more somersault speed, a bit more attack. I think there's no... It's not a dive that's super tricky, I think, for Libby, and just to see that a bit more aggression on the takeoff, having that confidence to give her more space to really attack the finish of the dive, that will just give her a better opportunity to get those higher scores.
So Andrea's got a little bit of ground to make up after that first round dive. Just doing in with 3.5 somersaults tuck, degree of difficulty 3.2. That's a bit more like it.
Yeah, it was better. Yeah, that will keep her in with a chance for sure. I think, you know, perhaps she would still be hoping for a bit more there, but it's almost there, just a slightly over-rotated.
What we said about Maisie in the last round, Andrea is another person who's gone through those physical changes, and you know, like we said, it takes time to adapt to that. Sometimes I remember when I was growing up, I lost my rip entry for a while because my proprioception of where I knew where my body was had changed because everything else had grown.
Yeah.
And it can happen so easily. Nice dive, Maisie again.
Yeah, she's getting a name for herself with her finishes, isn't she, Maisie?
Absolutely. And it's what I really like about Maisie as well is nothing ever seems to affect her. She goes to events that she's never been to before. She just does a thing. She's confident in herself. She's got a good. She's obviously I know her personally, so she's got great personality. But nothing seems to affect her. She's coming to this event and she's not phased. She's happy to go and show off those dives that she's been showing off in the junior events for a few years.
There you go, Maisie. There are your nice comments, as promised. Oh, lovely dive. Really nice dive. Yep, I've been impressed by this before. It's a difficult dive, and it's one that I think notoriously is hard to control, and Gemma does a really good job of that.
Yeah, you can often see girls like kick under the board when they do that arm stand dive.
You can't stop
Gemma
yourself.
doesn't do that. She stands up really, really, really well.
It's a jump off the arm.
Yeah. You've got to be really strong as well to be able to do that. Gemma's always been impressive. She's won this event a few times. You know, she's been national champion, and then she's gone on to do other events, and she's another one that her confidence has built over the years at this event, and I think to hopefully get that at some international events too in the future, then it can only help her.
Definitely. Same dive for Katie.
Well done, Katie.
Yeah,
very happy with that. Again, Ross is coaching her, so he'll be happy to see her.
Yeah, you think Ross will be pleased with that one?
I think so. I think obviously her first senior nationals, 6, 5.5, 5.5. That's a very steady score on a big dive. That this list is still relatively new to her as well. Like she's been doing it for a little bit of time, but a lot of these dives are still, she hasn't competed them that many times. So getting the experience of doing them is only going to help, and then hopefully she can move on and get even higher scores than the 6s.
Grace Alley in with 2.5 somersaults piked.
Boy, that's more like it from Grace.
Yeah.
Just had a little bit of a drop on the last round, but good recovery there.
Yeah, definitely a good recovery. Great finish. Maybe the body line wasn't completely straight through the water. That's why we're not seeing slightly higher scores, but it's a good job. It is a good comeback. I do want to say as well, if just for anyone listening, that we do have lots of tickets available still. So if you want to come down and watch the best dives in the country, please do. This is obviously we're at Ponds Forge in Sheffield. We have a full day of diving today, and we have one more day tomorrow as well. And also, if anyone wants to get involved online on social media, if you have any questions for me and Jack, let us know. Hashtag BDC 2022. Well, Lucy was motoring again.
Yeah, it's good to see that she's been working on making these dives. She's now, like we said, in with 2.5 was a great start. Back 2.5, easy, puts her feet out nice and early, and then again for the 4 3.5, she's making it easy. It's just keep that head up. I know she's in the past, her awareness on that dive hasn't been one of her best dives. She's struggled with it a couple of times, but she's definitely got it in a locker. So hopefully, if she gets through to the final, she'll get another chance to show consistency on that one. So Lois was in third place after the second round with her back arm stand dive. Double somersaults with 1.5 twists. This is 3.2 degree of difficulty.
I think that needed more flick.
Yeah, just kind of fell off her arms instead of jumping off her arms a little bit.
Yeah.
Which just leaves it a lot of work to do to fit all that dive in.
Yeah.
So, shame. I know, again, it's a prelim. I think she'll hopefully be comfortable through to the final and then can attack that dive a little bit more in the final.
Yeah. I
In
mean,
the mornings, it does tend to be, your body's not quite as supple as it is when it's fully woken up in the afternoon, and your explosive power's probably not quite the same. So it might just be a little bit of that as a factor, but maybe just a bit cautious as well.
Well, Hannah, she held on to that well. I think she probably would have liked a quicker takeoff, give herself more of a chance. But she actually looked very composed in the air. I was quite impressed to see that, holding on to the pike shape. It has gone a fraction short. But yeah, a bit more attack on the start, give herself more of a chance.
Yeah, it's quite a compromise because this dive is for 10 meters. It's not a massive amount of dive to do off that board, so
yeah,
it's interesting to see the girls whether they attack it and try and come out early or be a bit more careful and
yeah,
do the spin speed a little bit slower.
Same dive, nice, great dive.
So there we see from Maya, she's
Yeah.
gone for a little bit more speed and opted
Yeah.
to put her feet out a little bit earlier. And again, we see a great rip entry. But then if you get it right doing that way, the judges will reward you more than if you kind of go a bit more careful with it. So
Yeah.
great dive there.
And I think certainly for me that's what I prefer to see.
Yeah.
It's just a bigger statement. But you still need to see that with control. That's part of the issue. It's tricky. There have been some back-to off pikes over the years that have been aggressive, but not with control of the shoulders.
Yeah. And you watch them and you wince a bit when you watch it
Yeah.
because you're a little bit unsure as to whether they're sure where they are.
Yeah. So this is actually almost the same dive, a double somersault piked, but off the hands.
Oh, so nice.
Yeah,
So nearly.
I know.
Feet were out in the exact right place, just didn't get those arms all the way back behind her
Yeah.
ears. So that's the reason the splash has been kicked up off her shoulders.
And I think Chloe realised that dive was almost there for the taking. Just that alignment is so key.
It's also interesting to see the other variation of the arm stand dive. Obviously, we've seen some
Yeah.
twisting. That one is just the pure somersault option.
Yeah. And clarification on that flick. It's the bend of the knees and then the straighten as the shoulders and the elbows push off the platform, and That's the jump that you see. Ah, Eden. This goes so well in training.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was hoping for that now.
Yeah. Like
Maybe
we
a
said,
bit. It I'd say fell away off the board, so the balance probably wasn't what she needed, and that actually makes, particularly on inward and reverse, when you lean back or you fall away from the board or the platform, you're working against yourself. You're working against the rotation that you need, because obviously you're doing an inverse spinning dive. Maybe that's just what Eden felt a bit there. I mean, it's still not a difficult dive for her.
no, well, you can see how early she pikes out of
Yeah.
it. She's used to making that dive so easily. I mean, diving's one of the only sports that I know of that you can see them dive 10 minutes before the event and look amazing, and then just in the event it just doesn't quite click for some reason or another.
And it's just so hard for that. But for Emily, that's a fantastic job. This dive was beautiful yesterday in the synchro event, and she did a great job of it again today as well.
Yeah, I like Emily's diving.
Yeah.
Like you said, she's got good rip entries. She's neat and tidy, which is half of the battle up on 10 metre for these girls. They all use relatively similar dives, especially in the synchro, as we saw yesterday. But if you can keep the consistency like Emily seems to have done and be doing over the last few years.
Yeah, I think we can see that she's not feeling physically at her best, and that's a hard place to be competing in. But she's doing very well nevertheless.
Well, that's a shame for Tia. This is a dive that she has also done in a pike position. She's
Yeah.
opted to go with the easier option, which is the opposite end to the scale that she's done with the back arm, with the back twisting dive.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a shame for her.
Maybe taking it a bit too easy. That can be a difficult decision to make sometimes, and that mental battle. You know, we'll never know what's going through Tia's mind at that stage, or any of the athletes exactly. But
yeah,
don't
Tia
overdo it. I need to do this dive well, because all these little things.
Yeah, I remember when I was diving, the amount of conversations I used to have with a psychologist about how do I stop these, these thoughts, or how do I reduce the significance of them, because you are going to get negative thoughts.
Yeah.
That is just the nature.
Well done, Robin.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Pike out. Good finish. Well done.
I've not seen that pike out from Robin very often.
No. I think she's been working on that to try and get that extra, first accuracy, but also, I guess, flair, let's call it. And it's really paid off today. I know it's a dive it's kind of been up and down for her. She can do that amazingly, and sometimes we've seen it miss. That was excellent. Well done, Robin.
Juliet's up next, Crystal Palace. We saw a really, really good in-3.5 from her in the last round.
Yeah, I'm excited now for this dive.
Yeah. Hopefully she can follow it up. This time with the back 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists.
Oh, yeah. Juliet,
Exciting.
one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making a lot of the more experienced divers nervous, I'm sure.
Yeah, her last two dives are the required dives, so she's put her hardest dives in the first 3 in her list, so she finishes off with a back dive and reverse dive, so hopefully she'll be nice and consistent for her at least.
So Ellen, one of our divers from Edinburgh, inward 2.5 somersaults pikes. I think that was a touch on the board. The jump was so good, but unfortunately on that dive you actually need to sit the dive away a little bit. And that's where we're seeing the discrepancy in the scores, because I think you could just about hear it, but it didn't actually affect her leg line. I imagine that was just the tip of the toes. It looks like she's okay. That's just quite a small touch, so she did well to keep
Yeah, it was still
focused.
a nice dive, obviously. Then
Yeah.
you see that one judge hasn't picked up on it, giving it a 6, and then a couple of judges have. So, like I said, it was very subtle. The touch was only tiny, but that's the reason for the lower marks.
Yeah, and actually, unfortunately, in some ways, it's not actually a big mistake, because just the nature of, or necessarily that dangerous, because it's just the nature of that dive. Your feet go past the board straight, and you don't have a springboard to send you higher above the platform. So you do actually just have to put that dive away a bit.
Libby with another variation of the arm stand dives.
Yeah.
This time the forward arm stand double somersault pike. But very nicely executed.
So yeah, so this is back to the first variation of the optional arm stand dives we've seen. Andrea's back double somersault with a 1.5 twist. Just fighting to keep that handstand there. She went up into the handstand very quickly, and she's found it. Great strength.
That's a bit more like it. Nice and upright. Not quite the rip entry we've been used to seeing from Andrea in the last couple of years, but much more like it. I'm sure she'll be a bit more pleased with that one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see some of the standings. And for anyone as well who doesn't know, if just to follow along to see where the scores are, you can always use Dive Recorder. That's the program that we use the scoring for, and you can get live results coming up through Dive Recorder. So Maisie with an arm stand somersault. Go on, Maisie, give us that finish. Yes!
So that's the last of her required dives, as
Yeah.
you would call them, the required dives in the junior event. So the dives that you have a limited amount of degree of difficulty to use.
Yeah, great job.
She'll be
So
using
again,
two bigger dives in the last two rounds.
exactly, because just to reiterate for people that don't know, Maisie has had a sort of minor surgery on her knees to, yeah, nothing too scary, but just that was only a few weeks ago, so she's doing incredibly well to be up here. Gemma, almost
So close.
a bit over, but
Yeah.
it looked great.
Yeah, it was a really nice dive. Just instead of getting the 8s that I thought it was going to get, it just faded a little bit on the end. Just feet just drifted over, and that's why I've just seen a little bit more splash. But again, you know, it's still putting those points on the board, and she's going to be comfortably into that final, I think.
So Katie following with the same dive as Gemma again. So this is the back to somersaults pike. Sure, she'll be hoping to emulate what Gemma did.
Oh, she's in 6th place, I think, in the British event coming into this round.
Yeah, that's the first drop
Yeah.
we've seen from Katie. That's a bit of a shame. Not the turnover speed she probably would have wanted. So as she kicks out, the speed of the dive doesn't continue. It drops a little bit. She's not able to quite get the entry that she's after. There's one more
so
round to go.
It might just set her back a little bit, but she's still in with a chance to getting through to that final. And
Yeah.
like you said, in first senior nationals, that'd be a great achievement for her.
But again, we only have one guest, I believe, which is Maya Biginelli from Italy. So obviously she doesn't count towards the top 8 finalists in the British event. Oh, Grace. Again, this dive was was great. It's just not lined up.
Well, she put her feet in the right place, I think. She just, instead of getting her head back and reaching her arms behind her ears, she's just left her hands in front of her face.
And
So
the lineup sort of gives the appearance of almost like more of a forwards entry.
Yeah.
A forwards entry being a little bit dished, straight to dished, if anything, and a backwards entry is the opposite. It's extended slightly, depending on which dive you've done and where you've come out. You know, you can be fairly straight or really quite arched. And
As Freddie's talking, I can see him using his hands to to demonstrate.
You guys can't see that at home, can you? No.
Oh, nice.
You can see the diving instead, which is good. You don't want to see me. It was helping my, explanation, my visualization.
So as you extend your hand as much as you can for the back entry, and then slightly close it down for the forward entries. So Lucy keeping the consistency again. Good dive, reverse 2.5 somersault stuck.
So Lois Tolson, inward 3.5 somersaults.
Yeah, Lucy was just in and around those places to get into the final, and that definitely won't have done her any harm. So
No, I think she'll be
hopefully I
right
haven't
in
put
it.
the jinx on Lois earlier on in the competition by saying this was one of the ones that I thought was a bit of a banker. Maybe I have.
A little bit,
No,
not massively,
no drama.
but
No drama. It's just slightly over from vertical. Usually, you see her just nail this dive. She gets 7 pluses most of the times. Like I say, 5.5 isn't a drama, but you know it's not what she will come to have expected from herself.
Yeah,
and
I think that's fair.
furthermore, what we've come to expect from her as well.
Yeah, you just set the standards high, Lois. That's,
So Hannah, she's been very neat and tidy so far in this competition. And this dive is really one that you can show off your class. If you come out
yeah.
with a nice tight dish quite early, then it really does look great, this dive. And not quite upright there from Hannah. She's just a little bit slow in that spin speed, so it's meant she has to kick her feet up a little bit in the air, and then instead of reaching those arms right behind her ears, it's just left her arms slightly in front of her ears on the
It was a bit similar to her back 2.5.
Yeah.
The jump actually looked good. She went for the
Yeah.
jump, but the timing between the jump and the arm swing is a balance. Maybe the dive was a bit too far forward as well. That's working against her. But you've got to get the timing right between the arms coming through, the hips extending, but also the jump. And that's when the dive motors round. And she's got to work on that timing a little bit. Same dive from Maya.
Better on the attack. I think the spin speed was slightly better. She's then just put her feet out a little bit early, which has meant it's not got all the way around to vertical.
Yeah, a bit too much work to do to pull that dive around. Again, because Maya's back 2.5 pike was really classy.
Yeah. It's a similar.
we
similar
might have seen the
principle,
same
isn't it?
thing
You've got
there.
to put your feet out in the right place to be able to float round in that nice straight line. I've started using my hands as illustration now, as I'm copying your phone.
It's the coaches in us.
Yeah.
I say that like I'm actually a coach.
Oh,
yeah, well done, Chloe.
So it's same dive again this time. Great entry from Chloe.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, the 6.5, 7 to count. Again, like we said before, just probably to get those extra few marks from the judges. Maybe just needs a little bit more spin speed and therefore finishing a little bit higher in the air. But I really like that dive. This is the big one from Eden.
Yeah. This is the one we're kind of mostly excited for. It's a difficult dive, and you don't see that many women compete this dive. I mean, understandably so. Oh, Eden almost.
Yeah, a couple of nationals ago, we saw Eden have quite a bad accident on this dive. She really gave herself a whack, and to get back up and just do the dive again on 10 meter is you know, it takes a lot of fight and perseverance, and you know, she's been back doing it to a very good standard as well. Obviously that dive wasn't quite there. You can just see her gesturing to her coach. She didn't quite get her arms back behind her ears on the takeoff to give her enough spin speed. But like we said, it's again doing the dive in the competition. You know, she's not hurt herself. It's getting that confidence built up, and then hopefully we'll see her nail one like we've seen her do it in training.
I think that's it. If you can, with the quality she has on all of her dives, if the back 3.5 really goes down, then again that's world medal territory. Oh,
Nice, Emily.
Clever.
Yeah.
It's really clever.
That's the punch out. From the touch.
Reminds me a bit of Tonya almost.
Yeah.
Tonya Couch, diving legend. Yeah, it's just accurate punching out of that tuck shape, getting good finishes.
So Tia with a back 2.5 somersaults pike. Last 2 rounds, I think she wouldn't mind me saying, probably not gone as she would have liked them to. So hopefully she can recover a little bit on this one. I know it's definitely a dive that she can do very well.
Oh, Tia, she actually was fine.
Yeah, she put her feet out very early, but she had the spin speed
She
to cope
did,
with
yeah.
it. She just pulled a little bit too much with those arms and bent her back a little bit too much. She just needs to hold really strong in that dish shape, stay in a straight line and let her body float round to upright.
And a bit of a bend in the knees as well, and that's where the judges really start to take away. If you just from arching, you don't necessarily lose scores. You might do if it appears too aggressive or it's big, but a bit of extension is obviously fine. That's what you have on a back dive. But as soon as the knees bend and the judges see that, you get hammered on the scores, unfortunately.
Yeah, so our current leader, Robin Birch. And very steady again. Not the rip entry that we've seen her do on the reverse 2.5 and the inward 3.5. Her chest just came out a little bit through the water, which has just meant the water splashed up on her. But again, for a prelim, I think she'll be pretty happy, you know, steady diving.
Yeah, she's leading the pack, understandably so, right now. But things are pretty condensed. There aren't many points from first.
Good rip entry.
Well, so again, Juliet, she's clearly gotten 3 of her 5 optional dives up onto the 10 meter. Her last 2 dives being required. It takes a lot of time to actually get a dive ready for the 10 meter platform. There's so much work that you have to do. And obviously she's been focusing on the other ones, but
we had a bit of a mix from the judges, sort of 6 and an 8 in there. I don't know if it was just one of the judges might have seen a little bit of a split in the feet. That might be the reason for the low 6.
Oh, it looked like Ellen just went for the hand grab a bit too early, just stopping the dive. She needs to keep working that re-pike.
Yeah, Ellen doing the forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist pike. We saw a lot of this dive earlier on the 3 meter with the men's. We call that the full in. She's opted to do the twist first, which is when we call the dive the... sorry, I've said that the wrong way around. We call that the full in. When they do the twist after, it's the full out. So generally on the springboard, the divers opt to do that with the full out, the twist after, and on the platform, it's the other way around.
Yeah, with divers like Tom Daly being an exception, doing 2.5 somersaults first, then flicking, doing a twist, and then completing 3.5 somersaults.
Yeah, quite a rare dive that was from Tom, wasn't it? I don't think there's many people in the world that did that dive.
And I get why.
Yeah. Olivia with it in between 2.5 somersaults pike. Again, it's just another one of those dives. It's just a little bit cautious on the start, I think.
Yeah.
Like we said before, when your feet are coming around past that board.
Well, it's that balance. We saw again for Libby, the dive was a little bit stuck in the synchro competition as well, a little bit slow, but of course she saw her teammate, you know, touch her toes on the platform.
Yeah.
So again, that's what you have to bear in mind, that there's only so aggressive you can be with that dive.
Yeah, and then there's some crazy athletes that try and do it with an extra somersault.
Crazy.
That's more like it.
Yeah.
For Andrea. That's what we want to see. Andrea, good rip entry, slightly short of vertical, so we're just going to see the 7s instead of the higher scores.
But ultimately showing us more of what she's capable of. So
now Maisie.
Yeah, first optional dive.
We've seen some beautiful dives.
Beautiful.
The reason she is currently in 13th place overall in the competition is just because of that degree of difficulty. Now she's got the last 2 that up the ante a little bit.
And she did pretty much all she could have done on her first 3 in terms of execution. I like the takeoff.
Yeah.
That's one of the best takeoffs I've seen, I think, from Maisie.
and the come out.
Yeah.
To be honest, she was right there. She just missed that compared to what we've seen in the requires, where she's absolutely disappeared through the water. That just splashed up a little bit, which is why we're only seeing the 6s. But again, it's one of the first times. Well, not one of the first times she's competed it. Only a handful of times now. So, you know, just to keep doing it in competition and getting used to the pressure, you know, the extra bit of adrenaline, so you know when to do that pike out. You might have to do it a little bit earlier than you might do in training, just because you've got that extra adrenaline. Gemma with the same dive and a good
Yeah.
dive as well.
Yeah, well done. She got the good sound on that.
Yeah, I think a nice thing about Gemma's improvement as well is I remember for a long time she used to do like almost like a bullet entry when she hit the water. She goes straight down.
Yeah.
Now you can see her. She breaks her arms and she makes those 3 bubble entries, which gives you a better chance of having a good rip. So it's good to see that progression as well from Gemma. Obviously, she's been doing some good work with Jen up in Edinburgh.
So take this moment to mention again points for qualifications for the World Championships, which is how most of the selection process is going to be based on. The women are looking for 300 points in the preliminary and 310 in the final. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think Gemma was obviously she was just I think 298, so just off that. Obviously for the Commonwealth Games for her, she's competing for Scotland, so that's different. But for Grace.
Yeah, so Katie there just finishing off with that in between half somersaults pike. That's her first senior national competition, so hopefully she's gained some good experience.
Oh
from
yeah,
that.
I mean really impressed
some
with
really
Katie.
Good dives in there as well, yeah, absolutely.
And she's 16. She has a full list of optional dives on 10 meter national championships. Great job, well done, Katie. Yeah.
Good entry from Grace, makes a really good sound through the water. Just lacked a little bit of speed, so you can still see her hips slightly piked through the water. So the judges are going to penalise her for that.
Yeah, it's not been Grace's best day.
No,
today.
Compared to what we saw, a couple of weeks ago in Plymouth. Again, it's a different type of event. There's more pressure here. There's the best divers in the country. The pressure is on for selections for certain divers. So, you know, to come and have that extra variable, it does make a difference.
Yeah, it does. Lucy's final dive, back 2 somersaults, 1.5 twists.
Currently in our final spots, in 7th place in the British event. And I think that will comfortably see her through to the final. Very nice dive from Lucy.
Yeah, I think that should. You're absolutely right. Good dive to finish on. A higher degree of difficulty, so she's getting 60 points.
Yep, 261.35. Very steady score for a prelim.
Yeah, well done, Lucy. Lois Tolson. The same dive now.
So we're probably not going to see Lois get over that 300 mark.
No, which is interesting. I wonder how much they'll take the preliminary score into account. Perhaps they'll be very strict with that.
I think if the winner of the final does it in both legs.
Yeah, then of course they have the advantage. That's true. But that's a great way to finish. I mean, that's certainly a banker dive for Lois, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that's actually a dive
Didn't
that.
want to say it again, seeing as slightly jigsawed in.
Yeah. But and we're seeing that in this competition, but it's very common internationally as well. In a women's platform event, the very last dive being back 2 somersaults, 1.5 twists. Yep, it's the same dive we're seeing from Hannah Newbrook also.
Yeah, it tends to be one that people can score the highest on because it's at 3.2. It's probably easier than some of the other ones at the same degree of difficulty in terms of getting that rip entry and showing off for the judges. And Hannah, that's the hardest dive in her list, as you can see there. So it's a lot of dive to fit in off that 10 metre with 2.5 somersaults and 1.5 twist. It's got all the way around, just slightly in that pike shape when she's done her twist. It's really, really hard to use those ab muscles and squeeze really tight into pike shape.
Yeah.
Just stayed a little bit open, which means it's just gone a bit short of vertical. But some good diving again from Hannah. She's a nice, neat and tidy diver. I enjoy watching her dive. She's got good rip entries. She's got good shapes, usually.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just working on those takeoffs. Give yourself the best chance. Maya, same dive. Well, it's a bit of a shame about the entry, because she was right there.
Yeah, she stood it up nice and steep on the start, and then meant she could squeeze into that pike shape and showed off a nice shape. Unfortunately, she just lifted her chest a little bit on the water, which has meant she's thrown up a little bit of splash, but like you said, it was a good dive overall in terms of the takeoff and the aerial work.
So Chloe Johnson back 2.5 somersaults in the pike position, going into this round in 7th place. So there's a very good chance of Chloe being in the final also.
Yeah, I think that'll give her a very good chance.
Yep. Accurate.
Good kick out, good rip entry through the water.
She held on to that as well. She didn't let it wash past too much. Kept tension in her body.
Yeah, 53.65 points. 6.5 to count from the judges. So Eden was in 4th place after the last round. Another diver finishing with the back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists. And very nicely done by Eden.
Yeah, lovely finish.
She did get a good rip through the water. I thought, compared to some of the other rips we've seen her do, it wasn't quite as nice just because of the body line was slightly off compared to certain other dives. But 67.2 points in a prelim on that dive. I think she'll be very happy with that. Not quite up to the 300 mark, but as we've said before, I think it looks like there's only Robin really that's in with a chance of getting over that mark.
Yeah,
unless Emily does an incredible
dive, yeah.
Which dive. 79.45 points needed. Not out of the realms, but in a prelim, sometimes the judges are a little bit harsher, so it might be difficult for her to get that score. It's a very nice dive,
Yeah,
nevertheless.
she's done a great job. Great job, well done. The only problem with that is, I would say, the distance from the platform.
Yeah.
That's why she's getting marked down. Actually, the quality of the dive that she produced was excellent.
Yeah, especially the last portion from 5 meters down, the pike shape and the rip entry were very good.
It looks like that's actually taken her above Eden. We do have Gemma MacArthur sitting in 1st place right now. 298.2, so just shy of 300 points.
Tia finishing up her routine with a reverse turn of some sort of tuck. And that kind of sums up her competition a little bit, really. She, again, a good start, kicked her feet out in the right place, really. Just did almost the opposite than what she did on the back 2.5. She didn't reach her arms back fully behind her ears. That's why the splash has just caught off her shoulders. So it's a real shame for Tia. I know she's been at this event on numerous occasions. She's final, done really, really well. And she's going to miss out on today's final, so I know she'll be pretty upset with that. But
yeah, it's tough stuff. It's a hard event. It's a hard sport. It's a busy competition, like we said. 17 athletes in this event. Only 8 go through. But Robin, looks like it won't be any problem for her. She's going into this dive in 1st place already.
And that'll see her over the 300 mark as well.
Yeah, fairly comfortably.
How important.
Well done, Robin.
Score.
And there's more left in that dive. There's more left in a couple of her dives, so she can step things up moving into the final. I think the best takeaway for Robin is doing a really good job of her newest dive. I hope that will give her a lot of confidence. Let's see what she can bring later this afternoon.
Yeah, Julia, I've been impressed with her this morning. She's recovered really, really well from her 1st round dive, which wasn't quite up to the standard I think she wanted after seeing her reaction with her coach. But every dive since then has been well up to the standard, so very well done to her. Ellen finishing up on the forward arm stand double somersaults pike. And that's more like it from Ellen. Good rip entry through the water. Nice pike shape. Good dive to finish on. Slight mix from the judges' scores there. See a couple of sixes, a couple of 4.5s. Well done, Ellen. Good finish.
So just 3 more divers to go in our women's 10-meter preliminary competition.
Ellen's teammate Libby up next with a forward 2.5 somersaults with 1 twist. Pretty nicely done. I like the takeoff. The start, she got her arms up to her ears for the throw and stood it up really tall in the air, which means the twist shape looked really nice and straight and gave her plenty of time. Just needed to squeeze into that pike shape a little bit tighter to increase her spin speed, but she did a really good job of getting it upright on the entry.
So Andrea back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists. Going into this dive, she's in 9th, but of course, Maya, the Italian, being a guest. Oh yeah, there we are. There we go.
In the final. That's a bit more like it. First few rounds weren't quite what we expected to see from Andrea, but the last 2 have been much more like it. And there you go for 76.8 points. That's a great dive.
Yeah, just catapults her up the standings. So our final diver, Maisie Bond, reverse 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position. So
I think she needs,
what does it look like?
9 points to get into the final.
It's doable.
70 points.
It's doable, but this needs to be
very
for Maisie. It certainly is, but it does need to be a classy one.
It's a bit lower down on the DD at 2.8.
Yeah. Oh,
that gives her every chance.
She's given herself the best chance.
Every chance. Very nice from Maisie.
Oh,
she's done it.
I think she's done it. Yeah. Oh no.
Wow. Very cool on Chloe there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Chloe. You can see the difference in score after her. She, you know, absolutely deserves to be in that final. She did great. I mean, 0.05 is the smallest difference that you can see, I think, in a diving competition. So that's unfortunate. We do have the scores up for you to see. And we can see there, great performance from Robin, 312.55. But in second, Gemma MacArthur, 398.2. That's, I mean, that is on that 300 mark, so well done. Emily, 284.55. Again, using a couple of required dives as well due to injuries. Same thing, Eden, 282.1. She's in 4th. Lois Tolson in 5th, 280.4. Andrea Spendolini, City X, 277.9. Maya Biginelli from Italy, our guest, 261.7. So she'll be in the final as she's 7th overall. 8th place in the overall event, Lucy Hawkins, City of Sheffield Diving, 261.35.
Thought you were going to go for the little Italian and French accent there with the
I thought about it, but I didn't want to embarrass myself. I do that too much anyway. 9th place, Maisie Bond. So, as Maya Biginelli was above her, but she's a guest, that does mean, I believe, that Maisie is through on 259 points for City of Sheffield. So unlucky for Chloe Johnson. As we said, she did a great job, but 258.95, sitting in 10th place or 9th in the British event. Katie Garner, a great first senior nationals for her. She's in 10th place in the British event, 226.7. Juliet John, as we said, one to watch.
Absolutely.
Crystal Palace, 223.3. 12th overall, 11th in the British event. Libby Duke in 13th overall. Edinburgh Diving Club, 212.5. Hannah Newbrook, 14th overall, 209.05. Tia McGarry, 15th overall, 196.8. Ellen Gillespie for Edinburgh Diving Club, 192.45. And I do believe we just have, Grace Alley for City of Sheffield Diving, 192.05. That's a bit tough for Grace. We've seen great things from her.
She's had a good last couple of months. I know she's She's now going out to uni in America, in California in August, so I'm slightly jealous of her for that.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a great experience for her. We know what she's capable of. It's just not been her day today, but as we've said, this is the best standard of diving that you can see in the country, and we've witnessed that this morning, both in the men's 3-meter competition and in the women's 10-meter platform preliminary that we just saw. So we will have both of those semi-finals, sorry, not semi-finals, we'll have both those finals coming straight up later this afternoon. We'll obviously have a bit of a lunch break, and then we will get on board with those. So me and Jack will be joining you again. Jack, just a overall quick summary of that women's event.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've obviously said the qualification score is 300, which, in fairness, is quite a tough score for the girls to get in a morning. I think anything around that mark usually will win the event. So going up to the final, we're looking obviously to push over that a little bit. I think if any of the girls get around the 320 mark, I'll be surprised with that not being in top spot. But there's some really good stuff. Obviously, like I said before, 17 divers. It's great to see some more competitors in this event as well, challenging everyone. It means, like we said, we have that Maisie Bond and Chloe Johnson at the end. We've got a real fight for that 8th place. So yeah, it's been a good event this morning. I've enjoyed watching it.
Yep, and so we can see the diving will return at 2:40. So me and Jack, we will be back with you then, ready to see the finals. We're ready to give out some more medals. Thank you for joining us this morning. As I said briefly earlier, buy a ticket, come down and watch, or get involved on social media. Join us on the live stream again, but for me and Jack, we'll join you very shortly. We'll see you soon, guys.
Attention, please. Here's something I bet you didn't know. Not all supplements are created equal. At HealthSpan, our omega-3 oil is sustainably sourced from the South Pacific Ocean. We find our turmeric on the southern slopes of India, and our cod liver oil comes from the cold, crisp seas of Greenland. We work hard to seek out the best ingredients for all our supplements, because that's the HealthSpan way. We're healthspan.co.uk. Vitamins and supplements in-store or direct to your door.
Sim-only plans? There are always so many tempting options. So you jump headfirst into a long contract, which keeps you locked in for 12 months.
Somebody let me out!
At Labara, we offer great value plans and total flexibility. You can get 10 gigs of data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, and 100 international minutes for just £10 a month. And you can change or cancel anytime.
Now I feel free.
Buy now at labara.co.uk.